Today on Doomed! Protests are spreading all throughout the country. And now, actually, I've even seen throughout the world, I've seen protests on college campuses or outside the U.S. now. This is growing. Student encampments are forming, and anti-war, pro-Palestine protests are basically hitting up, what is it now? Columbia, Yale, Harvard, the list goes on. And we will be talking about all that and much more on this episode of Doomed with Matt Binder. And let's get right into it. Joining me now, hold on, let me pull us up on the feed here. You'll be able to see me and you'll be able to hear her because she is out in the field in the general area around Columbia. And she was on campus earlier. Joining me now, she is an independent reporter covering social movements, Talia Jane. Talia, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And just to reiterate that, you're just joining us live because you're outside. You were covering on campus earlier. You're in the area now. And, it's best not to do video and make sure we have a good, strong connection over audio so we could talk.
Yes. And thank you so much to your viewers/listeners who don't mind having to kind of imagine what I look like.
Oh, I don't think. I think everyone would be very understanding, and I'm sure you look very cool. Actually, you probably look like you were just out in the field doing your job, doing what you do. I mean, can't imagine.
I've got like a little hat that has the word press in a card tucked into it. I'm smoking a big cigar, and I'm standing around going, "Geez, what's with these wise guys, hey?"
I love it. It's just straight out of the Newsies, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Now, Talia, I have that visual now. I'm going to have that visual in my head for this entire conversation.
That was the point, Matt. That was the point.
Okay, this is great. I gotta somehow come up with a character for myself that fits the time period as well. I'll have to think on that one though. But Talia, you were, I guess we should start from the beginning here, but, starting in the beginning using your experience covering all this. You've been at Columbia. What has been going on at Columbia? Give for people who maybe have been, not been paying attention, sleeping under a rock for the past week or so. What's going on?
Well, super summary is that last Wednesday, students at Columbia University in New York City launched an encampment calling on their school to divest and to disclose financial ties to Israel and the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. They also are calling for an academic boycott of campuses affiliated with Columbia that are based in Israel. And they are calling for amnesty for the students who are demonstrating because the university has cracked down pretty severely on pro-Palestinian demonstrations and speech. So they launched this encampment in the middle of the night on Wednesday, by the NYPD, I think the next day. And then after that, they took over the other lawn and now we're going into a week of the Gaza Solidarity Encampment, and we've seen campuses across the country launch their own Gaza Solidarity encampments and across the city as well. Some of them have been violently swept by state forces or school forces, as we're seeing currently at USC, and some of them are just rocking out, and there's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter around what's happening with these encampments, around the tone and tenor of them. But in actuality, it's students with a clear focus who are calling for their universities to do better.
Right.
And,
So about how many people? When did you first get down there to report on and observe what's been going on?
Yeah, I actually received a message from someone I've never heard of before that said that they they got my number from someone else that I don't know, asking me if I wanted to come cover a quote late night / early morning deoccupation demo.
I believe that's
Um,
called a tip.
yeah. This is like, but that's what they said. And so in my mind, I thought I was going to see something start late at night and end in the morning. And that I would be home by like 11 a.m. and it wouldn't matter that I only got like 30 minutes of sleep. Um, that turned out to not be the case. And it was a lesson in maybe asking for a little bit more specificity before accepting gifts. So you know to wear the right clothes and
Hmm.
bring portable chargers. Um, so I showed up and I didn't know what I was expecting, and then I proceeded to watch a bunch of students flood onto a lawn, and in a short amount of time they set up these tents, and it became clear that they were doing something big. They had about 60 tents, including 2 toilet tents. So it was very like they were very considerate to the needs and um, intention of the space that they were taking over. And then they sent me a press release, 3 hours after I'd shown up, explaining what they were doing. Um, and we were off to the races.
So how many people were there early on when you first got there?
At the start, I would say maybe 200,
Okay, and where
maybe
was
maybe 150.
okay, and where was this taking place on Columbia? Like in the, if you could explain that for people so they
So
have a visual.
this is on the south lawn. There's a big building that says it's the Library of Columbia University, the big dome building, with the statue that everyone um, recognizes as being part of Columbia University. And this was kind of the main lawn area. This is where commencement is going to be held. So this is a major uh, point where a lot of people pass through, a lot of people congregate,
Right.
um, and yeah, it was smack dab in the middle.
Right. So for people who aren't familiar though, like let me try to set the stage. Like schools, universities and colleges in New York City proper usually don't have like full-on college campuses like like you're used to seeing in places that have more space. However, Columbia is a school that actually has a pretty large uh, piece of property and has a pretty proper campus space. I went to college in Manhattan, and we did not have a campus. That school I went to, but Columbia has like an actual, legitimate, real college campus. It's private Columbia property.
Yeah, and it's huge too. It's
Right,
massive,
right, right. So,
which is
so
which is like a big thing in New York where everything is super compact.
yeah, so that sort of like makes things even more interesting here because here you have this huge college campus like you would see, in places in around United States where there's room for that, but it's smack dab in the middle of Manhattan where there are regular protests and events happening literally multiple times every single day and night.
Yeah, New York City is a protest town, and it's alarming that a protest has happened at Columbia because it is so walled off. It is this little fortress in the middle of Harlem. But at the same time, it makes kind of perfect sense given the overall city that it is situated in.
Right. So how many people have? Well, I guess you gave the summary about how this started and what caused, according to Columbia University, what caused them to call the cops on these protesters who were there for how long were they there for? But when they first called the cops on them, was it like a day? You said.
It was about a day, yeah. I'm actually not sure. It's not really clear why Columbia felt moved to call the cops, other than that they had some kind of, pressure to do so. Um, the president claimed that the encampment posed a clear and present danger to the students, but there wasn't really anything that explained that. Um, it was a bunch of kids camped out on a lawn. They were studying, eating bagels, and having coffee. And chatting among each other and chanting, and that's kind of it. There wasn't anything, there weren't any like physical disputes. There wasn't any sort of, damaging of property. It was people hanging out in an organized, intentional way in mass. And I guess just like the visual of that freaked them out. I think, personally, I suspect that it's impeding with their building of the stadium seating for commencement. And that is what is, that's the motivator here, is that it's costing them money to have this delayed, because they were supposed to have all these steps set up last week, and they still don't. But
It's
there's
the
really
true.
nothing.
That's the true
Yeah.
tragedy of everything going on in the
Yeah.
world right now, right? The commencement speech steps, the
Yeah.
commencement address steps are not built
It's
yet.
a clear and
Yeah,
present danger to
horrible.
the stairs. Yeah. However, will we overcome?
Right, right. And this just so happened to be going down when the cops were called in, when Colombia's president, what's her name again? I'm sorry. Do you
Minouche Shafiq.
Thank you. She was called to speak to Congress, correct?
Yeah, so the encampment launched the morning that she was set to go to Congress to testify in front of the subcommittee on, I think it was education, which is chaired by some right wingers who have also, separate from this, Virginia Fox is the one that subpoenaed Minouche Shafiq to testify, and she also subpoenaed the Association of Legal Aid Attorneys, who signed a resolution calling for a ceasefire, which Legal Aid attempted to prevent from being voted on. And, they were unsuccessful in that. The resolution passed by a 2/3 majority, and Virginia Fox proceeded to subpoena ALAA to compel them to provide, private internal communications to expose the people who voted in favor. And so this is sort of like a very, very strategically like McCarthyist kind of thing that's happening. But Minouche Shafiq went to Congress to testify about anti-Semitism on campus. She was countered with, claims of Islamophobia and repression of pro-Palestine speech on campus. And she kind of gave these softballs that kind of she didn't want to say one way or another, or upset any one group or another, and kind of said a lot of nothing while this encampment was underway. And there was actually speculation from the people who were participating that they would not sweep the encampment while she was at Congress, because the optics of it for her would look terrible. And then sure enough, they waited, and then the next day they came in and arrested 108 students, including 2 legal observers.
Wow. I mean, it seems like if you wanted to sort of quell these protests and shut it down, they took the absolute worst possible route to do that, because this happens, and then what would you say the crowd was after this happened that showed up at Columbia?
So the demo started with about, I would say, roughly 150 to 200, and then after that, it was about 1,000.
Jeez.
It was a massive turnout of students on the lawn. They were rallying outside the lawn as the encampment was being cleared by public safety officers, while NYPD cops wearing riot helmets stood around watching. And they rallied for a bit, and then they moved onto the lawn next to this one and took that one over autonomously in solidarity with their classmates that had just been arrested. And then they launched a Gaza Solidarity encampment while their classmates were being, processed by the NYPD, and released from One Police Plaza throughout the day. And that encampment is even larger, and the tents that are being used are even bigger. So the first time it was, a lot of 2-person tents. And then the second time it was mostly 4-persons and 6-person sized tents. And it was sort of this amazing, almost like whiplash effect, I think, And then, from that, we also saw a huge wave of campuses launching their own Gaza Solidarity encampments. In USC, they're calling it the Gaza Solidarity Occupation. They would explicitly state that it was in solidarity with Columbia students as well as with Gaza and Palestine. So I think if Manoush Shafiq's goal was to have a whole bunch of encampments across universities across the country and globally, and calling for the schools to divest and kind of exposing the relation between higher education and, the military and weapons manufacturing and all this dirty blood money. She did a great job. If her effort was to try and make the protests stop and make the dissent stop, um, I don't think she could have done a worse job.
Yes. I mean, we saw, like you mentioned, almost immediately. Not only was there a rush of protesters joining, their fellow classmates at Columbia, but we've seen it spread. Yale, Harvard, NYU, USC, like you said. I saw University of Texas today, April 24th. This is, and then I also saw that I don't have it in front of me, but one of the schools, like Paris campus, just started camping out over in France.
Yeah, that's the Columbia sister school.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, this is spreading because people saw that there was a direct effect here. Like people can say whatever they want about these students, but without a doubt, they are saying whatever they want about these students, and we'll get to we'll get to that in a second. But they are without a doubt getting the job that they set out to get done in terms of drawing attention to their issues and growing their movement, because we are seeing colleges where this might not have happened if it was just like, couple hundred Columbia students hanging out on a lawn and never bothered, never touched, left there until they decided to just disperse themselves because they weren't, getting any attention. Instead, we're now seeing this grow even bigger. And of course, none of these schools are learning their lesson, and each and every one are trying to crack down their students and being met with even larger groups of protesters.
Yeah, I mean, it's the pro-Palestine anti-genocide demonstrations. When police crack down on them, they start chanting, "The more you try to silence us, the louder we will be." And this has been the case for months, since October, that this wave of Palestinian liberation organizing has kind of occurred. They've stated it very clearly, and I think that a lot of people are so accustomed on the right of just rhetoric being rhetoric that they didn't realize that they were serious, that literally it's genuine. The more you try to shut this down, the more people show up in support, the louder it gets. It's the Streisand effect. And I think that the right-wingers and conservatives kind of shot themselves in the foot, because for them, they make a lot of noise about stuff that doesn't exist, that isn't actually that serious. They stoke a lot of, panic and fear about things that are completely mellow, claiming that there's, anti-Semitic mobs that are roaming Columbia and just like bashing students over the head with chants and keffiyehs and whatnot, and it's just a bunch of kids hanging out on a lawn, and, for a purpose, obviously. But I think it's a pretty interesting tell in terms of the tactics that the right uses to build support for themselves versus the organic nature of actual liberatory movements and how they grow organically from solidarity and like that genuine desire, like seeing people harmed and wanting to support them.
Right. So let's actually dive into that. The accusations that this is, like you said, an anti-Semitic mob. These are literally, the Third Reich has landed in Columbia. I mean, this is unbelievable what I've been seeing. And honestly, it's not even like, oh, there's instances caught on camera, and they're using a couple of people to really say that's everyone, and it's not even that. And the funny part is, we do see video of like one or two agitators, like there's the picture that was going around, what's his face, the founder of Punchbowl News, so sharing a photo of a literal like mentally ill person who shows up at every protest with like an anti-Semitic sign or whatever.
Yeah, and like that guy is known. Like I've reported on him repeatedly about he's not welcome in these spaces. He knows it because the last time he actually entered into these spaces was in December, and protesters like grabbed his sign, tore it up, and kicked him out. Because they know that he's not there in good faith. The stuff that he says is garbage and it's insane. And on top of that, he's been doing this same shtick since Occupy Wall Street.
Right.
So he's like well known as someone that is not a part of this movement and is not welcome in these spaces. And the claim of anti-Semitism is like, well, why don't you talk about them kicking out a guy who is genuinely, vocally, explicitly anti-Semitic by treating him worse than when Zionists show up and agitate. There's a lot of like hands-off, like decision making of like don't engage when it's people who show up specifically to instigate, and ignoring them and letting them get bored because they have the attention span of children. And then there's a guy who's trying to infiltrate into that space to kind of make them look bad and to kind of portray himself as a representative of these spaces. It's just not true. And of course, there's people who see, oh, look at that crazy guy standing on the opposite side of the street, knowing that he can't get near this protest or he'll get his shit rocked. I don't know if I can cuss, but that's what had happened.
Oh, you can fucking cuss all you'd like.
All right. Well, he would fully get his shit rocked because it's happened before. And that's how like intensely people don't want this movement to be about hate. And the rhetoric and the focus of anti-Semitism has been weaponized long before October 7th. And I think a lot of like anti-Zionist Jews and anti-apartheid Jews are very well aware of the weaponization of anti-Semitism. And when October happened, it was very much like, oh no, that reaction of, we know how they're going to respond and it's going to be very bad. But the weaponization of it always gets thrown out in an effort to delegitimize something that is not actually engaging in any anti-Semitic activity, but they are rewriting the definition of anti-Semitism to make it that way. So then anyone who criticizes Israel is inherently anti-Semitic, including Jews. If a Jew does it, then we are self-hating, which is absurd. It is so dumb. But they do it, they buy into it, and they spread it, and they make that their new foundational reality. So that way then people operate outside of their reality that they've formulated through all of this, propaganda and indoctrination. When people operate outside of it, they don't understand it. It's the same exact process that you see with conspiratorial far right claiming that, a children's literacy event is, quote unquote, grooming kids. Right. And it's like, that's their reality. And it leads them into action to cause harm and to demonize marginalized people who are trying to establish a safe space for themselves. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same tactic because fascism manifests the same exact way. And I'm sorry for going on a huge ramble on that. It's really aggravating because you actually, seeing the students and hearing the conversations and being like actually in this space in good faith and kind of giving it a good, genuine shot without buying into any of the bullshit rhetoric that comes from people who are literally murdering tens of thousands of people, and cheering about it. When you take a look at it from an authentically objective view, it's very clear that the claims of anti-Semitism are bullshit, and it is a weapon that is being used to try and suppressing speech that challenges a dominant narrative that is justifying mass death.
Right. It's super clear that they are doing everything possible to shut these down, and obviously what you just mentioned is a huge part of it. Like, the things I'm seeing being said about these protests, even at ones that just began on campuses where there hasn't yet been one, but you're automatically hearing right away, oh, look, the anti-Semitic protest on, there's not even video from the protest yet. What are you talking about? Nothing's even happened there yet. It's very clear they want to shut this one down in a way that I haven't seen in a while. Like, you brought up Occupy before, and I was down at Occupy Wall Street covering that one. And this now, geez, how long ago? Like 13 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And like even at Zuccotti Park, they didn't try to crack down on it right away like that. Like, yeah, the cops gave them trouble, obviously, and there were tons of skirmishes, but they were in that park for, from September 16th to, what was it, mid-November. They were there for quite a while.
Yeah.
And obviously they wanted to shut that one down, but this is like immediate. Like, you can't be having students peacefully congregate on their campuses speaking out against their school's role in facilitating a country and a country's ability to do what they're doing in Gaza. In this case, a campaign of ethnic cleansing, a campaign of genocide.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember with Occupy when there were students at a college? There were a lot of colleges that started doing Occupy protests. They had their own interpretation where things are, they can't afford tuition and they want for tuition changes. And I think it was UC Berkeley or it was Davis, where that infamous photo was taken of a cop, mass macing students who were seated with their arms linked together on the ground. And it's the thing where they don't want it to spread. And so they're trying to crack down on the spread. But the fact of the matter is that once they pop up like that, it's clear that they're already there and the roots are deep and they're not going away. So, you can take all the tents you want and do all that. But the ultimate end of the day is that the people's mindsets are not changing. Their focus is not changing and their goals are not changing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they've already tried to shut it down, yet everyone just moved to the lawn next door. I mean, and in bigger numbers. I mean, it's very clear that this is going to be something that continues until the administration listens to their students. Like, this is the thing people don't really seem to really be putting two and two together here. These students literally are paying money to the to the school for the school to then go around and put that money towards activities and funding of groups and organizations and companies and facilities that these students don't approve their money going to. Like, it's a pretty clear-cut thing they have. Like, they're not looking for Colombia to literally solve like the Israel-Palestine issue. They're not looking for Colombia to somehow stop Israel's bombardment and bombings in Gaza. They know they don't have the power to do that. They're just simply asking for their school to not take part in any way, which they are currently doing.
And like, that's the thing too, is that there has been so much rhetoric around these protests that fact is completely obscured. These are very simple asks. They're asking for the university to disclose where their funding comes from, like the money that they receive, and where it goes. That's filing your tax returns. That's just providing receipts. And for campuses to unleash state violence against students who are saying, hey, we want to know where our money is going, and to make sure that we aren't, supporting things that, we ideologically or, morally disagree with, or that just are straight up fucked. And the campuses, the universities in response are just losing their friggin' minds about it.
Right.
And it's like, all they're asking for is like, can you let us know, like, like, show us what is actually going on here. And they don't want to show it, which is really, really an indictment, because it's sort of like, the more they try and hide it, the more obvious it is that they're hiding something really bad.
Right. Right. Now, have you been to other campuses other than Columbia? I think I've seen you cover some other ones. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I covered the launch of the NYU encampment. I did not cover the violent crackdown of it, but I, was paying attention and boosting other people who were reporting from the ground there throughout the day.
Now, the interesting
So
one
I
with the
saw their launch there.
Okay, let me ask you about it then, because the interesting thing here is that, unlike Columbia, NYU doesn't really have like what people who live in literally probably anywhere but New York City would view as a traditional, what they view as when they think of a college campus. Columbia has that. NYU doesn't really have that. So where were
No.
they? Where were they protesting? Where was the encampment for NYU?
They launched at Gould Plaza, which is about a block away from Washington Square Park. It is an open, slightly elevated. There's a couple of, low steps that go up to it. Open plaza, accessible to any member of the public who's walking down the street. And they launched right there in they kept the walkways clear to the actual entrances to the buildings, but they occupied that main plaza where people sit around and have lunch and go around to class. I think it was the Stern School of Business that they were in front of.
And how many people were there? 'Cause that's obviously not a space anywhere near the size of what Columbia's got.
Yeah, this was smaller. It had about 60 to 100 students that launched, and then more showed up throughout the day. Um, at one point, because of the threats of a police crackdown, hundreds of people showed up. I think there was an estimated like 1,000 that showed up on the sidewalk, in the street, down the block, and they occupied like the whole area in support of the encampment that was barricaded off to them. But that kind of speaks to the layout of NYU, where you can just walk onto a campus. There's no barrier between the school and the city, except for now they put up these flimsy pandemic plywood, is what I saw someone call it,
Right.
this wall that they erected around Gould Plaza to prevent people from being able to access it again.
Right. I saw that. That was something else. They literally they literally put up a wall. I mean,
Yeah.
way to really get what's going on, NYU. Wow.
Yeah, their whole thing
Um,
is the city is your campus or something like that.
right.
And they were like, except for here. um, which is just, I think and the speed in which they called the NYPD too, it was the same day, and they claimed that students were engaged in disruptive and aggressive behavior, and that there were non-students who were hopping over a barricade, and all these things, that it was like there were people who were showing up together and they just wanted to like sit there and hang out. And again, the school didn't want that, and so chose to dramatize the situation. Called in the NYPD, who used pretty excessive force. They were using batons, they were using mace. There were photojournalists that got maced, legal observers that got maced, students that got maced, faculty. And it's just, again, like an outsized state response to shut down a protest that would have otherwise kind of just hung out. And I don't know, it seems like a pretty easy, if you do A, then B happens. Maybe we shouldn't do A.
Right.
And they just keep on failing with very basic, I feel like it's pretty basic arithmetic that you would think that, really high level education would have some kind of understanding of, but they just don't.
Right. I just don't see any of these schools reacting to these protests in this way if it was for, honestly, literally anything else.
I think if it was like BLM, they would probably do the same thing. If it was some sort of demonstration like this for a marginalized group that's actually at risk, I think that they would crack down the same way. But if it's something that aligns with a capitalist type of value, then I don't think that they would give a shit.
Right. I mean,
Hold
I
on
guess
just a second.
Yeah, sure. I think personally that I think it depends on that actually. I think 4 years later now almost people forget how for that summer of 2020 how accepted into the mainstream and the liberal world the BLM was. Like it was literally considered to be the like baseline thing to support.
Yeah. And I think, with this, there's also, we have decades long active political campaigns to delegitimize and to keep the fight for like Palestinian liberation marginalized in a way that, we have socially gotten to a point where we kind of generally understand that racism is bad. And we had started to get to a point where we understood that queerphobia was bad. And we are not yet at a point, like broadly speaking, that people understand that Islamophobia is bad. Islamophobia has been rampant in the US for decades and decades. Prior to 9/11, there was a lot of extremist activity for Jewish ethno-nationalist supremacists who were, bombing people who were advocating for the liberation of Palestine in the U.S. And we had the ADL working to suppress and infiltrate Palestinian organizations. And this bogus definition of what anti-Semitism is, the amount of funding that goes into Congress to push specific talking points. And so we have a bit of a machine here that is being confronted that has for decades kind of allowed itself to get fine-tuned. With racism, it was something that there wasn't that same type of investment. Like we had the KKK, and they engaged in terrible, insane acts of violence against like Black Americans. We had slavery, and that was also like very extreme, obviously.
Right.
But like in terms of like social acceptability, since the civil rights movement, we getting into the 2000s, we have like a different understanding of racism and systemic racism and institutional racism, and we are able to learn about these things more accessibly. But we don't have that same access with Palestinian liberation because the resources that would otherwise be available close themselves off.
Right. So we were talking about NYU, but let's jump back to Columbia. I wanted to talk about because there's been an individual who teaches at the Columbia Business School who
I'm so
has
excited for this.
right. He's gone quite viral. He's been out there since like the beginning of even a protest at Columbia, like not even this whole encampment thing. Like if there was even like a student on campus speaking out for Palestine, this guy was there. Can you tell me a little bit more about, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I don't think I've even said it out loud yet. Cause I've just been, talking about him online. Shai Davidid, something like that, right?
I think it's David but I don't actually like care enough.
Right.
So Shai is a Nepo baby whose parents invest in like weapons manufacturing. He is virulently Zionist and intensely, Islamophobic. He has been losing his mind basically about any sort of demonstration on campus in support of Palestinians and against the mass killing and mass displacement and mass forced starvation of Palestinians at the hands of Israel. He has demonized students by accusing them of being terrorists. He has weaponized his identity as a person who is Jewish to insist that he's somehow a victim. He's targeted students directly. He lurks their socials and, crafts this really inflammatory stuff that is just outrage bait for the conservative right. And so we recently saw an instance where he accused someone of an anti-Semitic incident for holding a sign in front of some Zionist agitators who had shown up specifically to instigate against the encampment. And they held up a sign. I don't think it was necessarily a good idea. It didn't read well, but they held up a sign in front of the agitators saying that it was, Al-Qassam's next targets. And he posted that, claiming that it was a direct threat against Jewish students, as if they were simply Jewish and not known agitators who show up to instigate and incite against pro-Palestine demonstrations, who had been doing that repeatedly over the course of days since this encampment launched, and who, waved these giant flags, and they were playing really loud music to try and interrupt it was just like a movie night on the lawn. And they were trying to instigate. And this person was like, I'm assuming, I didn't talk to them, I don't know who they are, but I think that their intent was to kind of troll them. And Shai took that to claim that this was, intense, extreme anti-Semitism, which it's not. And he built this manufactured outrage cycle that led to a slew of news outlets claiming that there was a crisis at Columbia and that there's, these anti-Semitic mobs that have taken over the school. And New York Post put something up saying that, Columbia has fallen or something like Columbia concedes, something to that effect. This very dramatic, extreme stuff where, being here, it's this group of agitators show up with their giant flags, yelling dumb shit and getting in people's faces, asking, bad faith questions to try and bait them into reacting. And then someone trolls them and they have a nuclear meltdown about it. And then all the right wingers are calling to bring in the National Guard to Columbia to forcibly expunge everyone here in, Kent State style fashion. And then Shai decided to call a protest. He, held a rally outside the school calling for people with Columbia University IDs to join him, and that they were going to go into the school and go inside the center of the Gaza Solidarity encampment. And he requested that the school provide him 10 NYPD officers to do this. Soon after, the school had just called in the NYPD, and the NYPD had stated that they didn't really understand why they were called in, because it wasn't the extremes that had been kind of presented to them about need to clear this space. And of course, his request for NYPD was denied because that is ridiculous. Ina Vernikov, who's a conservative council member who often magically finds herself aligning with the furthest right of the far right, she said that she was going to put in a special official request to provide him this NYPD escort. And the school responded by saying that he can have public safety officers, and that instead of being in the center of the Gaza Solidarity encampment, he can have his counter protest on another lawn. And he proceeded to have a nuclear meltdown online, yelling at the COO of Columbia, Cass Holloway. I think he said something to the effect of "read something fucking history." Like, he was so mad that he wrote incoherently, claiming that he wasn't allowed to do a protest because he was Jewish, when he wasn't allowed to instigate in the middle of a thing that he's trying to instigate around, where, he'd filmed himself walking around the encampment previously, calling for the National Guard and, calling everyone terrorists and, doing this performative outrage online. And the school was like, we'd rather not assist you in an obviously bad idea. And then, he held this rally where he claimed that he stands for, like Jewish people stand up for all other marginalized communities. And then he, marched all of these cameras to the entrance at Columbia and tapped his card, and it made a really loud beep. And then, Cass Holloway was standing right there in front of him with public safety cops, like, the school security standing right in front of him. He walks up and he says, "Oh, there's Cass Holloway. He's the one that's like doing all this stuff, and he won't call in the National Guard, and he's an anti-Semite. You should hate him, blah, blah, blah." And Cass is just standing there with his arms folded, kind of watching and waiting. And then Shai taps his ID and it goes beep. And then he goes, "What?" And then he taps it again and he realizes that his card has been deactivated. And he was told right there that it was deactivated because his protest presented a safety threat to the students on campus. He went on Twitter and claimed that his card was deactivated because it wasn't safe for him to be on campus because he's Jewish, which is, I don't know if this is like a business school thing or if he's being like intentionally misleading. But he just completely misinterpreted the situation when he was he was the aggressor here. He was the instigator. He was the one putting people at risk. And then he turned around and claimed that he was denied access because they couldn't guarantee his safety, which is total nonsense. And then someone asked him after the whole song and dance what he was going to do, and he was like, "I'm probably just going to go home and take a nap," like magically not mad about anything.
Right. He went home. He went home and posted that unhinged rant about the Columbia administrator who like barred him from campus, where he was like, "I know deep down inside you're a good person. You're just doing your job."
It in your eyes.
Yeah, I can
saw
see
it in your eyes.
Really,
and it's like you can just.
I'm right. He was like, I'm right. Deep down inside, I'm right. Like, what a narcissist. What a narcissist.
Super narcissistic. Super like go to therapy. But it was also a thing where it's like he was trying to continue juicing the moment. He had very few people show up to this rally that, and he's tried to call other things previously that had a very small turnout. But the people who show up, they typically try and antagonize against pro-Palestinian people. So, for example, Heshi Tishler, who's this like conservative goofball. I don't really understand what his whole deal is. He's just like, "I'm Heshi Tishler. Pay attention to me." I think he went viral back in 2020 for leading a protest in Brooklyn where Orthodox Jews were doing like a mask burning in the street because they were protesting against COVID regulations, because a lot of they kept on holding these really large events and rabbis kept on dying. And the city was like, "Please stop." And they like rioted. He led that. So at Shai's rally, Heshi Tishler is standing there and he sees a girl wearing a keffiyeh wrapped around her face. And I swear to you, I saw this happen. I have it on tape. He looks at her and he goes, "Hey, I'm Heshi Tishler. Why are you wearing a mask?" He was like pitching himself before he started antagonizing this person. He goes over to her, he starts yelling, and then he proceeds to like continue following her for like 20 feet as she's walking away, when all she had done was kind of like stood in the area and realized that the entrance that she wanted to go into school was like not a good entrance to go towards, and like it's just this bizarre performance. And I think they're playing it for online and for the media, to only show the part that they want shown, and to not see the part where they're literally introducing themselves before antagonizing someone, where they're being told very directly why they're being denied access to something, where as soon as the cameras are put away, they're calm and they're like not really perturbed by anything, and they're just kind of like, whatever, I'm gonna go take a nap. And I think it's just so telling that seeing that dynamic, like, and the agitators that I've seen here with the giant flags, like they went to Wall Street and they did the same thing. And once the protest left, they were just packing up their flags casually, completely like disinterested. And I've seen that happen at previous protests too, where people entered into a protest space with these giant Israel flags, and then as soon as the protest moved away from them, they spent the whole time like trying to like get into arguments and agitate and irritate, and as soon as the protest leaves, they just collapse their flags, folded them up, and then go get coffee or whatever. And it's this weird, like, we're showing up to perform in some way that is deeply inauthentic, but that we are compelled to do for some other reason in defense of a state that's killing a fuck ton of people.
Right. Yeah, it's it really watch, it's sort of, that's why it's been nice to have you on this show, because I gotta say, as you being someone who's been down there and talking with the students and protesters and activists, hearing you talk about it, it does, regardless of what's in the media and the general, debates and arguments and discourse online it does seem like the students who are down there and the activists who are down there are feeling pretty positive about what they're doing. Like, there's like, even the ones who I've seen it talk to media who've been suspended or gotten in trouble, they're doing the right thing, and they know it too, which is good. Like, they're like, because me just seeing all these videos, I gotta say, it was like I had a moment where I was like, just like, this is depressing to watch these crackdowns on all these students. But talking to you, I think it seems like, and you could correct me if maybe I'm wrong here, the students are feeling really good and positive about what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was the protest today at the University of Texas in Austin, where state troopers mobilized, and they had, riot cops, and they had cops on horses, and the kids were chanting at them, "We're not afraid of you. We're not scared of you." And that's the thing, is that the state forces and the administration, they have a limited toolkit to get their way, and it is violence and threats of rescinding access to spaces. And these student protesters are like, we don't care if those spaces are prohibiting me from accessing them because of my position on a literal actual genocide being cheered on by my country. I don't want to go into those spaces. I'm good. And there's just this like very widespread like clarity, like moral clarity, that all of the rhetoric, all of the noise has not managed to impede whatsoever. There have been really intensive, systemic, or consistent crackdowns on Within Our Lifetime, which is a Palestinian-led Palestinian liberation group based here in New York City. The NYPD goes around telling groups or companies or whatever that these guys are super violent and they cause all these terrible things, and they're kind of insinuating that they're a terrorist organization and they're awful and all this stuff. And they still keep showing up. They get kettled, they get beaten, they get mass arrested, they get their organizers repeatedly arrested for minor infractions. There's a lot of really intentional nitpicking and efforts to divide the group and stoke fear and uncertainty and paranoia, and it just doesn't work. Like, there's a limited number of tools that the state has at its disposal to repress movements, and when those movements decide that they just don't care and that they're going to do it anyway, like, the state kind of runs out of options. Like, you can beat and brutalize people, you can mace people, you can do whatever you want. They're going to show up the next day. They don't care. There was at NYU, they maced a bunch of people. They showed up and picketed today. They don't care. You're not doing anything to them. If you want them to stop, you have to listen to what it is that they're saying. And there hasn't seemed to be any sort of recognition or understanding that that is what needs to happen. They've run out of options. You don't have anything else. Call in the National Guard, drop a nuclear bomb, doesn't matter. There's going to be more people. And like the overall point of why these people are gathering and protesting has not changed. Once the thing that they are protesting for is acknowledged, and there are changes made to stop mass death and stop the U.S. complicity in it, then you're going to see protests cool. But it hasn't happened. With BLM, the protest started to cool by a couple of months. Because of a variety of reasons, including police brutality. People got burned out. But with this, people have been exposed to that police brutality because they were there in 2020 in solidarity with people who were advocating against police violence, because they understood the intersectionality of these fights. And now we're seeing people who, they showed up in 2020 and they continued to show up, and now they're here also in 2024, and they're also not bothered by the possibility of police violence. Like, they would prefer that it not happen. I think it would be great if
Right.
cops were not bashing students over the head for sitting on a lawn. I think that would be really cool. But the fact is that is a threat that is there, and it's an empty threat that doesn't hold any power. Like, you can break their bones, but you're not breaking their spirit.
Right. Right. It's been a range of emotions watching what's going on. So I can imagine how it feels down on the ground, and for those students specifically. But hearing that really, that's going to be what wins out at the end. That's why you can't shut these protests down, because you just can't do it. It's not just the bodies that are there. And as they've seen, when you do try that, additional bodies show up. Talia, this was fantastic. Thank you so much. First of all, for really all the work you do. You are really someone who I could always count on to follow when there is some sort of event or protest or activism happening on the ground in NYC. You seem to always be there. So great work on that. And like I was telling you before we went live on the show, you are also the person who sort of, I'm pretty sure, broke the story on when the Aaron Bushnell self-immolation first happened, and nobody really knew what happened, who it was, what their background was. You were on top of that. You found the video. You spoke with the family. You made sure the media that did get out respected both what Aaron Bushnell wanted out there, while at the same time respecting his family. It was great work all around, and I think everyone should continue following your work. So why don't you use this moment right now to tell people where they can find you?
Well, that was very sweet. Thank you very much. You can find me on Twitter, Talia OTG. I'm going to be posting there until they force me off. That's where I do all my live reporting. I have a Patreon that's linked on my Twitter. You can, support there. And, the Patreon just goes to help fund the reporting that happens on Twitter. And I have tips in email and bio. If you have any tips about any, upcoming protests or social movement stuff that you want covered, always happy to receive tips. And I think I don't know what else to say.
No, it's great. I just, I like to give my guests the opportunity to do a little self-promo. You come on the show and spend your time with me. The least I could do is tell people to support your stuff.
Thank you. Still feels awkward.
I hear you. I'm terrible self-promoter. I constantly think about all the time, man, where would I be right now? How successful would I be if I just had no problem shamelessly plugging myself and promoting myself all the time? I just can't do it though. I just can't do it.
We have to be fascist for the real money to come in. That's the problem.
Right. Yes, that's the problem.
I don't make minimum wage, Right. But I'm pretty sure if I was doing this on the other side, I'd have a boat, a yacht.
Oh, the producers of the Civil War movie might be paying you for your clips. I still can't believe that one. Oh my God.
That's so gross. That's so gross.
Yes.
I don't think we have time to get into all that.
Right. That's a story for another day. Talia Jane, everyone, please do check her out on all of her socials and her links that she mentioned. Thank you so much, and hope to talk to you again real soon.
Thank you so much, Matt. Have a great night.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
All right, folks. That's not the end of the show. We are now going to go to the second half. Nothing changes for you if you're watching right now. We're going to take phone calls from listeners. We're going to read super chats. We're going to there's still a lot more show to go, so let's jump right in. Let me first thank Dylan Burns and Prague Pro for rating me over on Twitch. Hello, Prague Pro, and excuse me. Oh, I burped. Hello, Prague Pro and Dylan Burns viewers. Welcome to the show. Also, Let me really fast drop doomcast.com for the podcast version of the show, youtube.com/mattbinder you can become a member on YouTube, a paying member on YouTube. You can drop a super chat. I'll read your super chats. Twitch.tv/mattbinder. You could do the same things there, become a member, drop bits with a comment, and I'll read those. If you have an Amazon Prime account, connect your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account, and you get a free Twitch Prime subscription every month. That's free money to give to your favorite creator. You're basically forcing Amazon to give some of the money that you give them to your favorite creator. Do it. Do it. Use your Twitch Prime subscription that comes for free with your Amazon Prime subscription. Use it. Also, if you can, it's been a rough few months on Patreon. People wrote in saying they're so sorry. Their financial difficulties, job loss, all sorts of issues. Lost some members without gaining any members. So if you can, it would be a big help if you can sign up at patreon.com/mattbinder and support this show. Let me thank Callie Brading, Cy Abelman, Dan, Peace Seeker, and Brian B. For your support on Patreon over this month. Really appreciate the support. Really appreciate the patrons. And give me a quick second to get a drink. You don't have to go, if you're watching live, if you're a Patreon subscriber, if you're not, even if you're just here on YouTube or Twitch watching, just non-subscriber, don't go anywhere. Nothing's going to change for you. I'll be back on this stream in just a minute. If you're a listener to the Freebie podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, etc., this is where I say to you, I will see you all next time on Doomed.
Ecological collapse, corporate fascism, corporate journalism, police brutality, voter suppression, austerity economics, education masses, rampant homophobia, armed strength.
All right, we're back. Let's jump right into the second half of the show. Welcome, everyone. There was someone in the YouTube chat who did not agree with my or Talia's description of the protests. I would really like to talk with that person. They said they were going to call in. Just download Skype, or even just go to Skype's website and press the sign-up form. It takes 2 seconds to sign up. You just need to give them your email. It's absolutely free. I know Skype isn't as popular as it once was many years ago, but it still works just as good as any other platform like Zoom, etc. I actually use Skype because A, it's integrated into my live stream software, and B, I actually think the quality of the output from Skype is better than Zoom and those other platforms. But yeah, just it's that simple. But let me take calls now from whoever's on the phone. It's not that person who I wanted to call in, but let's go. Oh wait, it is. I see him right now. Perfect.
I actually use Skype because
hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My live stream software.
Hey Matt, this is DJ Monotonous calling from Brooklyn, New York. How you doing?
Hey, DJ Monotonous from Brooklyn, New York. I appreciate you calling in. I know you were saying that you disagreed in the chat, and once people do that, they don't always take up the offer to call in. So I appreciate you calling in for real. I don't know if you've watched my show before, but I am always open to talking to everyone, especially if they don't agree with me. So yeah, I'm glad that you picked up the phone and called in.
Yeah, it's not. See, the thing is, I tend to just see that when there are, let's say, disagreements about certain things, there's a lot of people who jump on the bandwagon that I was seeing people were calling me an ID. Is this guy IDF? Is this guy, like
No,
you
well,
get called?
there's always going to be people who do things like that. The important thing is
No,
to
no, I
never
understand. I
never
understand.
pay attention to comments on YouTube. And listen,
No, no,
if I read
fine.
every reply I receive
I'm
when
just responding
when one
to
of my,
what you're saying about. I saw you disagreeing in chat, and we gotta. There. Do you think what is it that you think I'm disagreeing with? I'm just curious. Like, what is?
I don't know, to be honest. I saw you here. Let me pull up just so people understand who aren't in the chat. You said most of these people don't have a clue what they are protesting. Matt, laugh off the disgusting behavior. It's not a couple of people. What the fuck, Matt? So why don't you tell me? Let's start from the beginning. Let's pretend. I have no idea who you are. I mean, I don't know who you are, but I mean, let's pretend I don't even know where you're coming from. Explain to me what your position on this is, where you have this disagreement.
Okay, and let me also say I am generally a fan of you, Matt. Like, and I'm a fan generally of the Majority Report and all you guys. But I feel like since October 7th, I feel like I've been trying to. There's just this kind of narrative that is obviously from both sides being pushed, and I don't see enough flexibility from either side. And when people start hearing both sides, they tend to think that's maybe like a disingenuous or like if you're not on one side, you're against us, that kind of thing. And I think
Okay,
that
so
is kind of
why don't you explain though your position? Because I get what you're saying, that you should hear generally on any issue you should
okay.
hear
So I'll start. Yeah.
what everyone
So
involved has to say. But for
yeah.
this specifically, let's get specific now. What is your position on this, and where do you disagree with? Myself, you mentioned the Majority Report as well. I mean, Majority Report and I are pretty much fully aligned on this issue. So where do you disagree with the entirety of the Majority Report?
I didn't say the entirety.
Okay.
But okay. So I'll tell you where I fall with this whole thing. Like, since October 7th, I pretty much started out not really understanding the history and the certain details that end up, whether we like it or not, have like a part in what's going on currently with
Oh, it's 100%. Not even. It is the reason why it's happening for sure. But go ahead. Yeah.
and what I'm saying is, like, as I've learned since October 7th, since, like, how can you avoid paying attention to this? Like, you'd have to be, I don't know, under a rock, I guess, but like I went to a lot of protests. I went to a lot of I went to Chuck Schumer's where he lives in Prospect Park to protest, like, basically his support of Israel and things like that. And I've been to a few since then. And what I feel like I kind of keep coming away with is this bad taste in my mouth, because unfortunately, I think the sentiment of most of these protests are generally looking and asking for the right thing, the kind of positive. They want a positive response to an awful situation going on in Gaza and the West Bank and all that stuff in between. But it's not just a couple of people, Matt. Like, it's not just one person getting caught in a video saying something that is either pro-Hamas or anti-Semitic. Like, there is a bit of, like, this is what I talk about when I think there's a lot of history that people don't seem to understand, and I don't think a lot of people understand, like, what actually October 7th necessarily was about. Like, I think you condemned it. I think a lot of people who I follow and have listened to condemn it, but there seems to be something leaking through that there's a lot of people in these protests, a lot of people in these movements saying I saw just the signs yesterday at the NYU protests before, it got shut down. I saw there was a lot of signs saying by any means necessary, resist by any means necessary. All the stuff that happened at Columbia. It all starting from October 7th, seeing the DSA hold a rally in Times Square in Chicago, holding up paragliders, holding up like what happened on October 7th was justified resistance. Having just, I think it was today or yesterday, Norman Finkelstein, just an unhinged. I'm curious what your opinion of Norm Finkelstein is, but the man's unhinged.
I actually think I don't know the specific speech you're talking about, but I have to say generally on this issue he's probably the single most educated voice out there in terms of the history of this. He knows it like the back of his. I mean,
Go ahead.
He's in discussion and debate. He's able to bring up very specific events that I would say most people don't fully know when they're in these debates. I'm not saying there's historians out there. I'm not saying there's historians out there that might not be better at it than him, but they're certainly not out there talking like he does.
Would you agree that you might know his history, but don't? I mean, I would. His history, it's more like his view of the history, right? It's not like fact. It's not necessarily like an unbiased view of history when it comes to this.
what would be a biased view of this? Like I actually wanted to. We're sort of going a little ahead of ourselves here. I wanted to ask you, like, what specific anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas things have you seen at protests or rallies?
Well, I mean, for one, I know a lot of it was not in the Columbia campus, but there was quite a lot of support outside the Columbia campus, and in the sense that there were groups, like dozens within groups, chanting, "We agree with Hamas. We agree with their rockets too." Something I'd have to look it up to get the specific phrases, but there are phrases being used, whether it's in the sense that like what Hamas is doing in the sense of like October 7th, what Hamas is doing in the sense of their charter, saying that like there is no Israeli, like no rock unturned without like, getting every Israeli either killed or basically like cleansed out of that area out of Israel.
I have to be honest. I haven't seen that. I mean,
you haven't seen that.
I've seen a few people who have voiced support for. Did I just lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay, I heard a noise. Like
again, like a few people like. Again, look at Norman Finkelstein.
But what is Norman Finkelstein? What is Norman Finkelstein said that you wanted to bring up?
I just said go to his tweet on October 7th. You can find it.
Could you just read it off for me? I don't know. I don't have it
in front of me either. But
give me a general. The gist of it.
What Hamas did on October 7th, killing innocent civilians, as we all know. Yes, in the whole thing of 2 days, like there were some IDF soldiers killed, but the whole thing was a terrorist attack on innocent civilians. Whether we like to say that or not, I think that's just the facts, and none of us purport to say that's a good thing. And he is in this tweet cheering on the idea that this is like a justified resistance by the Palestinians, and that the children of Palestinians are smiling in the wake of this horrific attack, and that is justified. That is like a very tame.
I mean, if he's just saying that there are Palestinians who are, I mean, without a doubt, it seems factual to me. I mean, after everything that the Palestinian people have been through, it seems like sure, there are going to be people who feel like any sort of action taken against Israel is sort of eye for an eye.
So I'm curious, what do you might know what the support of Hamas is in Gaza, right? Or do you not know that?
I mean, I'm sure they do support Hamas. What else in terms of any
Well, they
hope
don't.
for any? I mean, any hope for like
Because
I'm
the
not gonna be,
talking point,
I'm not gonna be surprised that Palestinian people support Hamas. Why shouldn't we? Like
well,
why
you
would we
should
be?
because they
What?
don't. Because most of them don't. Like, because this is actually a talking point on the majority report that I've seen a lot, is that like the way that the Palestinians are portrayed are just like because Hamas is in Gaza, that they're portrayed as like pro-Hamas. When actually, what the thing is, like most Palestinians didn't vote for Hamas in what was it, 2006 or something, like the last time there was an election. That is like a talking point on your guys' shows where like, how can you hold the Palestinians responsible for what Hamas did? Like they don't deserve the retribution that Israel's throwing upon them
Right,
because Hamas
correct.
does not represent the Palestinians.
Sure.
Hamas is a terrorist organization, right? That has basically co-opted the
Well,
government.
that's not even the correct way lots of parts of the world view Hamas. Hamas is a legitimate government. Yeah, there is a terrorism factor that's part of it, but it is
Do
the
you want,
government
do
of
you want,
Gaza.
I'm okay, it might be a legitimate government in the sense that they provide food, they provide education, they provide like hospital care, like, but do you know what the Hamas Charter is?
I mean, you're going to bring up that there was a mention or something about killing Jewish people or something like that, but
Or just
uh,
the Jewish people. That's all it is. I mean,
it's also been amended to take that part out because I mean,
no, it
yes, you
hasn't.
can say you can
No,
say
you're talking about it hasn't been amended. The statement they don't actually take it out of the charter. They just said that they don't like some people in the Hamas leadership said, well, that's not really, what we mean, but they didn't
okay,
actually change the charter.
okay, sure. I
So it's
mean,
still part of the
but
government charter. And so what I'm saying is because I'm just
what
restoring
makes
what you said.
what makes Hamas a government that does terrorism, like you said, any different from Israel, a government of the people in Israel who has the IDF slaughtering Palestinians and people sanctioned by the IDF with support from the Israeli government kicking Palestinian people out of their land in the West Bank? What's the difference between the two? Why is one
There is
considered
there,
terrorism, but why is one considered terrorism that you can't support and the other isn't? Like you view people who chant pro Hamas slogans as
before
disgusting
we get
and
into that
but
part,
like do you view the same for like people
no,
who
because
just
the
like
difference here
support
is,
Israel?
of course not. I despise anyone who like like at the Columbia protests, like there are people carrying Israeli flags and blaring whatever music or like in your face agitators. Like I despise that just as much equally as the woman holding the Al Qassam next target sign. But the problem that I see is I want the people who are pro-Palestinian or fighting for the rights of Palestinians to not be subjugated to occupation in the sense that they are now. I don't want them to be. The problem is they keep delegitimizing themselves by not addressing these bad actors in these protests. And I'm sorry, yes,
You're,
it's not
you're
the majority,
but you're
but
not gonna be able to address it. It seems like something that you just ignore because it's not going to be addressed. Like you're not. What are they gonna do? Say something and they're gonna stop? No, people will
it's not about
continue.
it's
People will continue.
the not the,
People will continue to smear the movement using those individuals, and it seems like individuals such as yourself who give any sort of airtime to it, it just seems like you're helping delegitimize the movement. And when instead you could be like, Who gives a fuck? Look what's happening in Gaza.
That's crazy, man. Like, cause
How is that
like
crazy? How is that crazy? How are you supposed to police?
I'm not gonna
How
say
are you
who
supposed
gives
to?
a fuck
But how
to
are you supposed
people
to
who
police? How are you by your own admission said it was a few dozen people. How are you supposed to police a few dozen people in one city when you're
Okay,
just?
okay, you're strawmanning a little bit. You're the one who said it's a person here or a couple people there.
No,
I'm talking about
you were giving me
videos,
specific
videos.
examples where you said a few dozen people were chanting some chant
Yeah,
about
that's
your
one
exact words were a
video.
few dozen.
That's one video. There's multiple videos of that one night with more than dozens of people in different places in each video. They're different. Like, just look up this isn't like a fear-mongering thing, dude. This is like just like why can't we just call out the bad shit
Do
on
you
the
think
right side?
do you think that those people who were chanting those things, do you think those people will somehow rise to power or influence people in power, and all of a sudden we're going to have a pro-Hamas government that supports slaughtering innocent people in Israel? Do you think that's going to happen?
No, I don't think
So
people
then why do you care about this when we have
because it's
a
able.
pro-Israel, pro-IDF government where many people in power, not even just people in government, people with moneyed interests, people with big billionaires and millionaires supporting Israel and the IDF who are actively saying and doing and taking action to support Israel to do a genocide in Gaza. But we're spending time talking about a few fucking idiots who might be doing some stupid chant that will never get anywhere in power and will never have any influence over those in power. Like, it seems
If you
completely
think it's just a few
counterintuitive.
fucking idiots, man, I don't know what to tell you. Because like I've been to multiple protests and I've seen enough to get a bad taste out of my mouth from that shit. Because like
All right, how many
I
people? How many people are you talking about then? You keep saying it's not a few fucking idiots. How many people? 1,000 people?
1,000 people. How many? I mean, like dozens, hundreds, maybe. Like people who hold up resistance by any means necessary. That's like
What does that even?
half
But what does that even mean? It's just a chant. Who gives a shit? Like, you sound like those conservatives.
people who
You sound like
hold
those
that stuff.
you sound like those
That's
conservatives right
sentiment.
now who think we should bomb Iran because they chant death to America, which is literally just like a chant that they have over there. It has no meaning. It has no
It
meaning.
means that more people in Palestine they're speaking for are feeding off the October 7th in the sense of resistance by what Hamas did, are conflating that with resistance of what resistance by any means necessary, meaning violence, right? Meaning what Hamas did was resistance by any means necessary. If you're in a, occupation, if you're like civilian deaths by any means necessary. Like the sentiment, unfortunately, does get picked up by the mainstream media when
Right.
half the
I
people.
listen, I agree that generally, and this is not just on Palestine and Israel, in every single protest in the history of protests to ever happen, there are people who show up who either may be bad actors, not supportive of the cause for real, and they're just trying to take advantage, or people who do support the cause but aren't as educated or well-spoken as most people who are there. This has always existed. What do you want them to do about it? How are they going to solve an unsolvable issue? And why does it matter?
Okay, I don't think it's unsolvable.
How do you solve it then? If you have the answer, how do you solve it?
I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm saying I don't think it's unsolvable to rid the people who do these kind of unhinged, kind of disgusting
The Columbia
repeats of.
the Columbia students specifically got a guy out of the campus who's not even a student, who showed up unwelcomed, uninvited. They literally got him off campus, pushed him out into the street, and he came back an entirely different day. And you still have the media reporting on this guy holding up anti-Semitic signs like he's one of the students protesting on campus. It literally does not matter what they do, because they will always use those individuals to smear legitimate movements that literally show that, that strike fear in the establishment's eyes that something can actually be done. Like, you're trying to focus on an issue that A, can't be solved, and B, really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that that people in these protests saying things that are contrary to helping the Palestinian people doesn't matter as much as you think it doesn't matter. Like, I guess, like, I can't argue that, like, it's necessarily going to change anything by
Do you
getting.
think do you think those protesters who were chanting by any means necessary or whatever, do you think they have any bearing on what happens in Gaza and the West Bank? Do you think anyone in power is listening to those protesters and saying, "Oh, this is this is gonna really now Gaza's really gonna get it," as if they already haven't got? Like, do you think they have any bearing on reality?
Is that I think the people, this is why this has become kind of a lightning kind of rod thing, is like that the people who get the most reactions are doing, the people who are causing the most reactionary behavior are the ones who unfortunately are painting, like you said, the conservative media.
They're calling these students anti-Semitic before anything even happened. Like, it literally does not matter. They are conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, period. It doesn't matter if it was a perfect protest. It doesn't matter if they released doves into the air and the doves were carrying those little banners that are half the Palestinian flag and half the Israeli flag, and they were saying coexist. It doesn't matter. The point is that if you speak out against Israel's actions or against Zionism, which is a nationalist movement, you are being called an anti-Semite.
Do you know, but what do you think about the fact that, like, what, like 90% of Jews in the world are Zionists?
I don't know where that those numbers come from, but I mean, there's also a lot of non-Jews that are Zionists. If I'm an anti-Zionist, does that mean hating Joe Biden for being a Zionist makes me anti-Semitic? Am I anti-Semitic for hating an Irish Catholic? Is Joe Biden more Jewish than my actual Ashkenazi Jewish self? Like, I'm trying to understand here what would make me anti-Semitic for being anti-Zionist. Like, explain this to me.
Because I'm curious, like, what is it about being anti-Zionist in the sense that, like, it's the project, right? It's the project of Zionism that, like, Israel is the homeland of the Jewish diaspora, right? Generally speaking,
they should believe that there is a place specifically for Jewish people. It's a nationalist project. It's an ethno-state, really, based upon a religion, and you know what? Not even, and it's very vaguely.
It's ethno-state, like a race.
It's very vaguely too about the Jewish religion. Like, I was not brought up as a religious wise as a Jew. Yet I have a right to return to Israel because I have Jewish blood. Because my father is a Jew, I have more claim to Israel than a Palestinian who was born in the West Bank.
Yeah, that's fucked up. I agree.
Right.
So I was just trying to clarify, when you said ethno-state, when you said nationalist, I'm just curious, does race come in that for you, or is it just religion?
Say that again?
It doesn't really matter. I just, when you said ethno-state, I thought you were kind of playing on the idea that it's like a white supremacist sort of project.
Well, there is a supremacy going on. Palestinian people and Arabs are treated differently. There are different sets of laws for people who live there, who live in the West Bank.
Right. But I'm saying that I think the other thing that I hear a lot as well, because I don't think people actually understand the population diversity in Israel, is actually majority non-white. And
right. No, I'm not talking about. I'm not someone who believes that this is white people in Israel. No, I think that those conversations obviously don't help because there is numerous.
An example of a conversation that doesn't help But why are you saying that doesn't matter when we got people
Because you can't.
like for
Listen. You're not gonna
genocide
have.
of Jews?
You're
I
not gonna
don't.
have.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have. There's how many billions of people in the world? People who generally see what's going on in photos, who see the videos of Palestinian children being killed en masse, thousands and thousands of people. They see children with not only dead but children without limbs. There are going to be people who see that and say this is wrong, and then just not generally understand more of the, I guess you can say, more complicated stuff, such as the history, the wars, the makeup of the races and ethnicities and religions in that area. Does that mean they can't voice their disapproval for genocide? No. It just means don't listen to them for the other stuff. They might not know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree, okay? I don't disagree
Like
with,
if you saw someone who was
but I just
against
think it's
Donald,
a
if
little,
you saw
it's a
someone show
little
up at the
hypocritical.
if you saw someone show up at the anti-Donald Trump protest, if you saw someone there at the Women's March, and a right winger went up to them and said, "Can you name 10 things you don't like about what Donald Trump has done? 10 policies he's passed," and they couldn't answer that question. Do you think, oh, they can't not like Donald Trump?
That's not really. Can you do another one? I don't really get that one too much. I get what you're saying, but like, I'm not saying you can't protest what Israel's doing if you don't necessarily know the facts. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that what is being said is the antithesis to what people are trying to say for the right thing, for the people of Palestine. And you said I was like acting like a conservative, reacting to these things. And to that, I would just say, like, I think not reacting to them and not calling them out and just not caring about it, like thinking that it's just like brushing it off, like you're doing a lot of minimizing on it. And again, I would look.
Because it
Okay,
is a minimal amount of people. It is completely
okay.
powerless. It is completely powerless individuals. Listen, you can speak out against it. You can say, I disagree with that. I think that's fine. If someone was to ask me specifically, what about that chant? I would probably say, not helpful at the very least. And if depending on what that specific chant is, I'd probably disagree with it. But
when
in
you got
terms of the broader picture of things, they don't matter. It's the truth. It just doesn't matter. It just does not matter. Those chants from these powerless and few individuals, you said it yourself, hundreds in the
I,
broad pic
what
in the broad view of
you
things.
didn't give me context of what we could say. Hundreds out of like 500. We could say hundreds out of 1,000.
Hundreds. You're saying hundreds out of 500 are marching in the streets saying
Well,
Hamas can kill innocent civilians.
you're doing a little bit of straw manning twice now.
I'm just give me.
What I'm saying is, let's talk about I was telling you what I saw at the outside Columbia protests, and you said you were laughing it off as if it was 1 to 2 people. And I'm telling you, you can look this up yourself. There are at least 4 to 5 different videos of 4 to 5 different locations of pro-Hamas chanting and pro-genocidal rhetoric. Okay, that's what that is. I'm not like, so let's leave it at that. Like the other thing about the 100 out of 500, the NYU protests last night, or was it they're all going on now. Like there is a sign says like at least half the people in these protests are holding signs that say resistance by any means necessary. Now, like just that in itself, if you don't know the context of what that sign means, then it doesn't really mean much. But when you do know a little bit about what is behind that rhetoric, what's behind that phrase, conflating with the idea of what Hamas did was resistance, you can understand why there might. It's kind of like the defund the police thing, right? Like it's a slogan that kind of unfortunately, like these things just pick up steam when
I mean,
they're not created
to
way.
compare it to defund the police, that's not working in the favor that you're trying to argue. In fact, it's adding to the opposite of
Defund
what you're
the
trying
police
to argue.
worked?
What?
You think defund the police worked?
No, I'm saying defund the police did not mean what people were trying to paint it as. They were trying to paint it as something it was not.
Right. So what was taken away from that slogan?
So by comparing it to resistance by any means,
like, no
it means
police,
you are
anarchy.
you are trying to also attribute a
No,
meaning to it
what-
that's not accurate.
Right, but what I'm saying is the slogan itself did more damage than the actual cause.
No, I don't think it did any damage. I don't think it did anything at all, really. I mean, where I haven't heard of anyone who was in Congress who said defund the police. I don't think anyone said it, really. Maybe a few of the squad members, maybe Cori Bush. She's still in Congress. It didn't really affect her. I mean, I don't know who it affected, honestly.
Yeah, I think you're like, what I'm saying is there was such a conservative backlash to that, whether it was from the liberal side or the right side, about the defund the police statement, that like it carried a lot of political it was disadvantageously, sorry, it wasn't clear. And so like what was taken away from that slogan was like kind of like the worst concepts, was like, oh, like these people just want anarchy and like they don't want police and this and that, and like it became, it got nothing done. No bills were passed. Like maybe it's not the best analogy, but I'm just kind of trying to talk about the slogan here. And when you got a bunch of people in protest holding signs, resistance by any means necessary, especially if you happen to be Jewish, and especially if you happen to be, you know, unfortunately, or not fortunately, unfortunately, a Jewish Zionist, I guess. But I don't know, like, I'm still trying to tackle that idea of like.
I mean,
the
I
fact
think
that,
that's your. I didn't know. I didn't even know you were Jewish. So is that what you're saying? You're a Jewish Zionist? I mean, I just interesting to know from.
No. I'm just like what you were saying, how you grew up like non-religious as a Jew, as did I.
I mean, I wasn't
Like,
even brought up as a Jew. I mean, I'm ethnically a Jew. Religion-wise, I've never been Jewish. I was actually raised as a Catholic. My mom is Catholic. My dad is Jewish.
Right. My dad's Catholic. My mom's Jewish. I wasn't raised religiously either, but I grew up culturally as a Jew, if that
Right.
makes sense. Like all the holiday, but it wasn't religious. So what I'm saying is that I'm sorry if it's like gone on too long. That slogan.
No, I enjoy these conversations. I know some people in the chat like them to be shorter, but I enjoy these conversations.
I think you're not necessarily entirely, like, I think you just kind of want to throw it away, that like, why are we focusing on this minority? But it's not. It's just it's a good portion of the protest. And when I'm talking about this sign, and there's other signs that we can get into, and other things that you can see a consistent theme in these protests. Do I agree with most of them? Yes, probably. But unfortunately, there is a good amount of people who hold signs like resistance by any means necessary, reiterating pro-Hamas statements. This is what's going to be taken away in the mainstream media. This is what's going to be taken away. It's going to delegitimize it. Hold on. It's going to delegitimize a lot more than you think it is. It already has. And the backlash that it's gotten from Joe Biden and people in government and the mainstream media, like the narrative is beginning to shift, unfortunately, away from the actual cause of the Palestinian plight and more towards, wait, this is starting to look like there's a little gray area going on in these protests where it seems like it's not being called out. It's being shrugged off. It's only growing from what I've seen since October 7th. Like, if you just don't want to look at it and you think it's no big deal and you think it's pointless, I just don't agree with that. I think, like, you do need to call the people who are, like, saying they're on your side to, you know, there needs to be...
I asked you though, like it seems like you're also struggling here with this. I asked you what can be done if these people are such a problem. What can be done about them? And you know,
Well,
and I
for-
told you
well,
that
like
nothing
you said,
nothing
you
can
said-
even going at that. First of all, I disagree that they're a problem at all. I can
You
disagree with
disagree
them.
with
I can disagree with them, but they are not adding any issue to anything. I'm sorry. We just saw Greg Abbott crack down on the University of Austin encampment the second it showed
I
up.
don't agree with the crackdowns.
What?
They have the right to. I don't agree with the crackdowns. The police should not be involved in this shit at all.
And guess
Like,
what? What I'm saying is
they have
that
the
shit
right.
that shit that you're focusing on literally doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. Maybe it matters to you because it
See, I
hurts
feel
your
like-
feelings or you think it's wrong or
No.
whatever, and that's fine. But they literally do not matter. They do not affect how those in power are viewing these protests. There's not. If those people did not exist, the way they are smearing these protesters would not be any different whatsoever, at all. And that's what
Can I
I'm
just
trying
ask
to
you a
explain to you.
question?
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
explain to you.
Yeah, I hear you, but I feel like you're just not. I guess I'm just not.
No, I hear
getting
what you're
across,
saying. No, I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. This is not an issue where you're not getting across. I
I
vehemently
just don't know why
disagree.
you
I
feel so
ve-
vehemently that doesn't matter.
because
I
instead
get the
instead
greater
of
context.
be-
Matt. I get
because
the
ins-
greater context.
because instead of focusing on the issues that do matter,
But I am.
now
I
on
can
this
still
now
get
on this
to
show
walk
on
and
this
shoot
show
up at the
whatever
same
on,
time.
on this on this show whatever, it doesn't matter. We're having a conversation. I don't. That's fine.
It feels like you
But in
guys
the
can't
broader
walk and
picture,
chew gum at the same time about it, though.
what was that?
I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I can be on the right side of this. I can be at these protests with the right people saying
Correct.
the right
Correct.
things.
Yes, sure.
But
And you could say that that's
you can
wrong,
also call
and
out
that's
the
fine.
bad
Okay.
shit
And then
and just
what?
say that.
And then
but
what,
then
though?
just no,
But
hold
in-
up.
Okay.
But I would never say some of the shit that has been said, whether it's dozens or hundreds or signs being, to say that that doesn't matter. I just think it does harm. I'm sorry,
I mean,
dude. Like, if you think it
again,
doesn't
if you're talking
harm,
about it personally matters to an individual because personally it goes against what you personally believe or your personal ethos or morality or whatever. That's
it's not
one thing.
personal.
That's
It's
one thing.
like, what does it do to the Palestinians in actual Palestine, like in actual Gaza? What does resistance by any means necessary do for them? In a sense
don't
that,
know.
like,
Some
what
of them
are
believe in
they-
that too, though. Some of them believe in that. I mean,
Yeah,
who am I to
so-
judge? Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge an 18, 19-year-old kid in Palestine whose entire family was taken out, lived as an orphan, is all
Matt,
alone without anything? Who am I to judge that person if they decide to join up with a group that breaks through a fence? I could say what they did is wrong, but I'll never understand what it feels like to be in their shoes. I'll never understand what it feels like to be in their
I'm
shoes.
not saying that you should judge that kid for feeling animosity or even violence towards Israel. What I'm saying, that you don't really seem to know that the Palestinians in Gaza actually don't really support Hamas as much as you think they do, or are aware of that they do.
I think yes, support of Hamas has gone down because of October 7th and the brutality that they've been experiencing.
It was low before October 7th. It wasn't 50 plus before. You know that, right? Because this is a talking point on the majority report a lot too. That like, oh, like, how can you paint the Palestinians as Hamas? Blah blah blah. They're not violent, like, because they haven't even voted. 50% of the population wasn't
correct.
even
How
born
can
yet.
you? No, I think you're misunderstanding something here, though. In 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, when George Bush and his administration decided to attack Iraq, and there was a war. They started a war in Afghanistan, and we were in two wars. They were
Before you go,
the majority of people. The majority of people. Let me just make this point here. The majority of people in this country supported the Bush administration. They supported what was going on. I still do not think that the citizens bear any responsibility or should be painted responsible for the actions of their government. I don't care if they support that government. I don't care if they voted for that government. They are not in power. They have no say over what actually happens. they should not be held responsible. So I don't know what you're trying to argue here, but either way, it's wrong. I don't care if the Palestinian people support Hamas or if they don't support Hamas. Either way, they are not responsible for the actions of Hamas.
Yeah, I agree. And that this is why I come to the rhetoric of some of these. It's the rhetoric, the signs, everything about like the siding with like what Hamas did on October 7th. Look up Norm Finkelstein, the guy you said who was like one of the best historians on this issue. Look up that unhinged fuck and see what the fuck, and look at his lectures too. Look at what this guy talks about when it comes to Israel-Palestine. Like, just this guy wants Jews as well to be. He doesn't think Israel should exist.
Well,
This kind of
honestly,
stuff.
honestly, it seems pretty like a growing position, and honestly, one that I share, is that I don't think the state of Israel, as with a government and everything that it has as is, I don't think it should exist. Honestly, does that mean
Okay.
I want the people of
Where
Israel?
you-
Does that mean I want the people of Israel to be removed? I have seen people say that. I disagree with that vehemently. I do not think anyone should have to move. I do not think anyone should lose their homes, except for extremist settlers who have taken
Sure.
over homes in the West Bank from Palestinians it doesn't belong to. I think that the state of Israel should not exist, and that a new government should be formed. And
as the way the government is formed.
and a new government should be formed that allows
Well, how do we get to
people of
that?
Palestine. Listen, if that can happen, I'm also not someone who says that has to happen. I'm not over there. I'm not a Palestinian. I'm not an Israeli. So I'm also not one to say it's my way or the high. I think people over here who do that are wrong as well. I think whatever the Palestinian people and the Israeli people can equally agree on, to the closest that is possible, I think that's what should happen, whether that's a two-state solution, a one-state solution, whatever it is. My opinion on this doesn't matter because I'm not over there, and I would never force that on people who are affected by it. But someone, a larger power like the U.S., for example, would have to step in as an equal opportunity arbiter, and they're not. Like, we're not. There could never be peace over there because those who hold the power are so obviously one-sided. The U.S. could actually solve this issue very simply. We could just say we are not aiding Israel anymore until this is solved. Israel, we are not aiding you anymore. We are not giving you a single dime for anything anymore. You are losing us if this is not solved. And we would force a Palestinian authority of some sort to sit at the table with Israel, and we would be an arbiter for a position that would be a neutral agreement where no party completely gets everything they want, no party completely gets everything they want either.
I hope this could happen, even though it's been attempted maybe 3 or 4 times.
It's never been attempted. It's never been attempted because there's never been an opportunity for a fair offer to be made to the Palestinian people where they could actually then come back and say, okay, we accept this. There's been ridiculous offers, and then there have been lesser ridiculous offers that the Palestinians did consider and decide to actually accept, but then when they accepted it, the Israeli regime changed, and they were no longer saying, no, sorry, we're not letting you accept that offer anymore. So there's never really been a chance for them to accept an offer, honestly, because there's never been a good offer presented to them.
Was that
And when there
reference to Oslo?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, you can't. This is not going to be an issue that's solved overnight. You have to obviously let people. There's going to be time. People are going to need time to accept whatever the end point offer is, the final offer is, but there's just never been a good faith offer given to the Palestinian people. I'm sorry. And when they did accept an offer, and they had every right to take their time with this, because once again, you really have to consider this, that once there is an offer here and a Palestinian state is established, that's probably it. Like, it's rare enough that we'll get, like, it's going to be such a incredible moment that we get to that opportunity. So once that opportunity is taken, that's it. Like, there's going to be no time to go back and go, this is actually what we wanted,
really
but we didn't
isn't
get
a
it.
military option. It has to be.
Let me ask you. Let me wait. What were you saying about a military option? I'm sorry.
I was just saying that I think a lot of people, let's say on the left or the pro-Palestine side, who don't live in Palestine, who don't live in Israel, kind of breathe the sentiment that let's say river to the sea, that kind of stuff, or like one state solution.
Oh, I have no problem with that, saying river to the sea. I'm not sure if that's what you're getting at.
I'm saying that in the sense, like, the curiosity behind that is that what, like, the dissolution of Israel, like, in the sense that the government, in the sense that the whole, I don't know, how do you come to a place where you have two governments that literally speak genocidal rhetoric and one obliterating the other, like, with a heavy hand? And it's like the idea that Palestine can fight their way to a solution is probably
no.
not
I don't think
good.
there's anyone I don't think there's anyone serious who legitimately thinks the Palestinian people can fight their way to a solution. The point is that they can force the hand of the powers to come to a solution, and I don't think you can argue against that. I mean, whatever your opinion on October 7th is, I'm someone who thinks that the attack on innocent civilians is wrong no matter what, even though I am sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. But whether you agree with me on that, whether you are even further to the right of me on that, where you think they have no right at all, or whether you're on the other side of that, where you think like what you were saying, what Finkelstein is saying or whatever, there is no doubt about it that October 7th was successful in getting this issue back in the minds of the entire world. Like, Israel was killing Palestinians before October 7th.
Palestinians are just martyrs. That's kind of what you're saying. Like,
I mean, that's what they call themselves. Listen, we're speaking from somewhere. We could never understand it, man. We could never understand it.
Want Hamas to do what they did. Like, they knew that Israel was always, the government, especially the right-wing government, was always going to say, you hit us, we're going to hit you 100 times back. This is a known fact between Israel and Palestine, in the sense of, like,
and nobody
no one in Palestine. Maybe there's a small minority, but nobody wants Hamas to do what they did. If they had the chance to do it again, they would not do it again if it was up to the people of Palestine. I promise you that.
I don't know, man. I mean,
come on.
I can't say either way, honestly. I think
Hamas themselves, the Hamas leadership said, like, these are like, this is a sacrifice we're making by, like, going into Israel, doing the attacks. Like,
yes, they said that. Yeah.
They are sacrificing the Palestinian civilians. Like, they
Correct.
knew
Yes.
Israel was gonna come at them as hard and as violent as they have. They knew this going into it, and you're saying that that's like, not like, you think the Palestinians were okay with that?
You're telling me what you're saying.
You're saying because of October 7th that, like, this is all come to fruition all of a sudden? Because I think there was a lot of pressure going on before October 7th within our own government.
What are you talking about? There was no concern over the Palestinian cause for years prior to October 7th in the mainstream. They were literally signing a peace deal between Israel and the Saudis without any discussion about the Palestinian people, completely divorced from the entire situation. You had Jared, what's his face, the son-in-law of Trump, going in and brokering deals in the Middle East without any concern for the Palestinian people whatsoever. You can't be serious to tell me that this factual like you just told me you just told
If
me
you're talking about the Trump camp, if you're talking about the Trump camp in the years of the Trump term, of course there's some insane shit that was done during that time with Israel, Netanyahu, and Trump, and everything like that, and Kushner and all that stuff. I agree, but when yes, Biden, yeah, I know he's done the least amount of effort he can do to like since October 7th. But yeah, you can argue before too. But like there were people in Congress, there was a squad, there were
there was
people.
nothing even
That's not
close
true.
to. I'm telling you, as someone
I know.
who's been in this entire scene, like I remember getting into the punk scene in the 90s and Palestinian liberation and Free Palestine being a major part of the 90s punk scene even.
I'm not saying it was enough.
I'm telling you,
I'm not saying it's nearly enough.
There was never a time I could remember, and I'm talking about my decades working through the 2000s.
I'm not talking about decades ago. I'm talking about these past 4 years. I mean, like
there was 2021 was the last time there was a mainstream covered conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine, and
what was her name that got
that was. And even
assassinated?
that journalist, yes.
Reporter.
And look what happened. Israel came out and fucking said, after they swore up and down they had nothing to do with it, they came out and said, oops, our bad, and nothing was done. And you're going to tell me that there was movement on this issue.
I'm not saying zero. I'm not saying something was done. I'm not saying zero pressure. Not that was enough. But that since that reporter was assassinated, there were discussions between Congress people. It was AOC. I know Rashida Tlaib. Like there was a lot of vocal. What do you call? Like there was a lot. Oh my God. There were discussions had.
Come on.
Leadership. I'm not saying it was enough. I'm not saying there was even nearly enough of what, but to say that what October 7th did was the way to get.
I didn't say it was the way to get it done.
No,
I'm saying it's getting it done though. I mean, you said yourself.
Is it getting it done because
you
how
said
many Palestinians are dead?
Oh, look at the. I'm not saying it's the way to get it done. I'm not saying a lot of people haven't been killed. I'm not saying I'm vehemently against what's going on. I'm not saying I wish it never happened so all those people could still be alive. But you can't deny the fact that you just told me that Hamas did October 7th, knowing this is your own words because it's the truth, did October 7th because they knew what Israel would do in retaliation. And that this would further, in their view, the cause. And that's exactly what's going on. Israel responded. Right. I never said it was the right thing. I never said it was the right way. The point is, though, that it is the way. It is a way. There is no doubt. There is no doubt about it that Israel, in the same way Osama bin Laden won on September 11, 2001, by getting the United States to do exactly what he wanted the United States to do. In a very similar fashion, this is exactly how October 7th is playing out. They wanted Israel to respond in a certain way, and Israel's doing that. And because Israel is responding in such a brutal manner to completely innocent people, the entire world, except for those in power, not even the civilians in those countries, but those in power in a few Western countries, the entire world has turned against Israel. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. This is just what's happening. Hamas, if winning for Hamas is getting Israel to do what they wanted them to do, then Hamas won. It's that simple. Hamas won.
No, sure. Yes. They totally won. Like in the sense that they don't represent the people that are getting slaughtered for them.
I mean, I I don't think they do, because I don't think innocent people should be getting slaughtered. But a lot of people, they have no choice there. And Hamas is the only group over there that they see as a legitimate power to do anything about their situation, what little power they actually have. So when things like this happen, and you have orphans looking to avenge their family members and, dream of a better life for themselves, Hamas is there for them. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. I'm not saying it's what I want. I'm not saying I want peace for everyone. I want all those people to die to not have been killed. But this is the reality of the situation, and this is what's going on. And Israel helped facilitate this. They helped make sure Hamas was propped up and that Hamas was the only thing there for the people of Gaza. And this is what you get.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with a lot of what you just said, but I do think what I came in this call with as like, I agree that, like, do these people in these protests mean a hell of a lot, in the sense that, like, will they make all the difference one way or the other? No, I don't think so. But to not be able to have or want to have the conversation, like, if you had, like, whether you think it's a bad analogy or not, like neo-Nazis in a let's say, like, anti-abortion rally. I know it's a horrible coupling there, but, like, if you had some people just representing some real bad rhetoric and some real bad points of view about, like, a good cause, I think you'd want to have that discussion.
I mean,
about
listen,
how
I completely agree with you on the fact that there are people at all protests, including these Palestinian protests, who don't have the best messaging. That's clear. But like I said, this is the facts of a truly organic grassroots movement. There is no leader. There's no individual who is putting this together, who's filing permits, who's bussing in the individuals that they want to corral for this event. This is a organic grassroots movement. And there will always be people who join in, who either don't believe in the cause and just want to take advantage of a situation, or do believe in the cause and just aren't well-spoken, or maybe they don't even have the greatest ideas or ideals to further that cause, even if they agree with the big picture. That's just the reality of it. To focus on those people who are powerless, who are not enacting anything, then I think that's a waste of time. The difference between neo-Nazi movements is that we have seen that neo-Nazis take action. They go out and they murder African-American people. They go out and they murder marginalized people of any type. They go out and they murder Jews. We've seen white supremacist and neo-Nazi shooters do this in this country. I have not seen any pro-Palestinian protesters or anyone of that sort. I have not seen any of them do any sort of real-world violence against Jewish people or Zionists of any religion or background.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just not a thing. And that's a major difference there. I mean...
Definitely.
It's just words. And you could say that it's bad messaging, and I'll agree with you. But what can be done about it? What can be done about it? You just can't do anything about it. Just ignore them. Try to remove them from the protest, at least where you are, which I've seen has already been done numerous times. Also, a lot of there's also people really seem to be conflating a lot of the Palestinian protests with an entirely left-wing movement, and without a doubt, the left is a major part of the Palestinian protests. But there's also just a lot of Arab people and Muslim people who get involved, who, if you ask them their politics, they're probably fairly conservative in terms of like social issues.
For sure.
I'm certainly gonna join forces with them to stop a genocide, to voice my disapproval with that. Doesn't mean I agree with them on their views of other things, I mean, there's just going to be different people here who have different ideals in the broader picture on different issues, but on this, everyone seems to be coming together and talking about it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say to you.
No, all that is right. All that is I agree with, and I I'm gonna be, in let's just see. It'll be interesting. Of course, it's going to be interesting to see how this pressure is going to build, in the sense that, like, I don't know what the timeline is. None of us do. But these protests, to me, are an amazing thing, generally speaking. But yeah, if you want to call it focusing on something that doesn't need to be focused on, like, I do think it's valid. It's important to have discussions alongside other discussions about some of the rhetoric, some of the people in these protests, while, again, just multiple things. I'm having this call.
We've been talking for an hour now, which is fine. I like these calls. I like going long. I think we're getting towards the end of this specific conversation. But I just want to say, I've been asked before about October 7th, and I always mention I condemn the attack on any innocent civilian. And I think that's really all that needs to be said in terms of if you want someone to address those signs or those chants or whatever. I mean, there's nothing really more to say about it. I don't think innocent civilians, no matter what, should be put in danger, put in harm's way, should be attacked. But I think any more time spent on that, though, I do think is just like,
okay,
keep your eye on the prize. Gotta keep your eye on the big picture.
I guess I think you can keep your eye on the prize while doing that as well. But I mean, in the context of this call, it's, I'm sure obviously to you and your audience, it comes off that I'm just laser focused on this one aspect, and I don't, there's no focus on anything else of the greater cause. But that's the issue with, having a discussion within a certain amount of time. I wanted to call about what I was kind of listening to, what I've seen the past few nights, like sort of seeing how you reacted to the way people saying these things, like, brushing it off. Like, it's fine, bro. I guess I agree with mostly everything you said at the end here, and that doesn't need to be paid attention to as much as maybe I'm putting attention to it. But I think there is somewhere in the middle that there's a lot of misguidance about it as well, towards what these people think they're saying, or like what they think the cause necessarily means, like whether it means like there's just a lot of different answers you're going to get at these things, and some of it is righteous, yeah, and some of it is you think Israel's, as a state, people shouldn't live on that land and somehow move them out, and it's a spectrum. I get it.
I mean, people just have different, honestly, people have different beliefs and ideals, and that's what guides their view on certain things. I personally don't think anyone should be displaced. I think, there are a lot of people in Israel who obviously have known nothing but Israel. And I don't think they should be forced out of their, where they live either. At the same time, that viewpoint in Israel hasn't been extended to the Palestinians. So I understand why people would have a hard time, sort of having that position. But I think most people have that position, honestly, regardless of what the solution to this long-standing, decades-long issue is. That's why I think the most obvious thing to do is a one-state solution, because a two-state solution is going to require people move or live in an entirely different country. I mean, and that's basically going to be forcing them to move if they don't want to live in that country. So if you actually don't want anyone displaced, it seems like a one-state solution would be. But again, I
Israel's
think
not going to, not going to. The government, whether it's right wing or left wing, they're not going to accept the one-state solution. You know that,
right? But
so it kind of has to be the two-state. Unfortunately, like that is like, or some multi-governmental regional solution, like 4 to 5 different countries, kind of holding some kind of, I don't know, just agreement within that region to like. The one-state solution, that's the other thing. There is no one-state solution, right? I mean, because in that sense, what's the majority is going to be what? Not Jewish, and in the sense that I'm not in favor of one side, in the sense of like having overwhelming power over the other. But all I'm saying is like, it's not going to happen because the Jews in Israel are just not going to want that to happen. Whether that's right or wrong.
Right. No, I see what you're saying.
They're the ones with the power, right? They're never going to agree to that. Even if the U.S. is like, we're not funding you unless you do one state. That just, they'd rather nuke.
I do think, I think we could get them to do whatever we want them to do, honestly.
You think you could get to agree to a one-state solution?
If we really wanted to, because if they took any action against a country like that, they would get themselves in a multi national war with the entire
I don't think
Middle East.
And if we said, darn, you stop.
But if we said we're not helping you, they're not going to get in that war. They're not going to do that. I mean,
wait, which you're talking about right now?
If we were to say, this is what we want, and we offer a one-state solution, and Israel said no, and we said, then we're not funding you anymore, we're backing off completely, goodbye.
Right, but can you?
And then their answer was to nuke,
like the parameters, like because when you say one state, you mean like a majority Muslim state. Jewish minority.
The makeup of it is completely like to try to create a country like that based on the makeup of the people there. I don't like that, how that sounds. Like that's very
no, I don't either. But that I'm talking like this is why the Israel government would never, even if the U.S., because to them it's their existence like at stake in their view.
We could if this was an issue, if they were actually open to a one-state solution and that was their one issue, I think it seems pretty fair to make sure it is sort of an evenly established government, and that a sort of constitution was created that enshrined equal rights to everyone of any religion, any background, and then once that was established and set up.
Sure. Yes. That if you give more specifics about the parameters, like those are the parameters that they have, it's like in their constitution and all that stuff. And like, it's just, then sure. But like they're as of right now with the government that runs Israel, like,
we're talking fantasy scenarios here. Yes. This is not, like, I'm not right. That's why I delineate. That's why
along the lines.
Well, that's why I delineate between what I think should happen and what could happen, or even what the people over there want to happen. I mean, I don't think the two-state solution is any more realistic right now than any sort of compromise.
Sure.
It's yeah. All right. Well, we've talked about this for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate it.
I know.
I appreciate the call.
I'm getting a lot of hate. I haven't looked at chat. But
listen. You gotta listen. Don't.
Let me just say this. Like, even though you may not believe it, I'm for Palestinian liberation and anti-occupation that Israel's doing. Like, I just wanted to come in because I made a comment in there, and yeah, sure, maybe I was reacting to the comments that I was getting, and it's analogous to the kind of things that I see spoken in the street of these things I've been to. Like, yes, it's not the majority. Yes, these are just some kooky people. But, I don't think there's any harm in, trying to talk about like things that, like you said, don't need to be talked about. That's fine. I can also talk about the things that we agree upon, but this is what we talked about. This is what I was interested in talking about with you. So I really do appreciate your time for giving me that. And
Yeah, I appreciate you calling in.
You do
Yeah.
great work, and I appreciate you guys. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And feel free to call in anytime. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. I know I went long, but honestly, it's been a while since I had a nice, friendly. It was friendly. Since I had a friendly debate on this show, a debate of any kind on this show. I need to get back on some right-wing shows so I can get some right-wing callers again. But let me take some calls. I'll go for another. I'll take a few calls. Because that call was so long though, let's get right to the point with these upcoming calls, okay? Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Ren. Can you hear me?
Hey, Ren, I can hear you. How you doing?
Sorry about last week's call. It was a swing and a miss, but yeah, I just wanted to call to kind of like rebut what the previous caller was saying and kind of talk about my experience like navigating social stuff around like college protests and what's going on in Palestine.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So my view on this is the path to justice: an immediate stop to the killing, an unconditional permanent ceasefire. Then there needs to be billions of dollars put into aid, into like reestablishing the infrastructure to allow a civil society to occur in Gaza. This is going to take years. There also must be efforts through diplomacy and other stuff to get the fascist factions within the Israeli government to back off and to try and keep them out of power. There has to be signaling through stuff like the ICJ and what happens at the United Nations to where civilians in Israel understand that what their state has been doing is wrong. And then there needs to be basically progress that is made towards like a reunification and one state with equal rights for all. But the first thing is an immediate stop to the killing.
Right. Absolutely. Like that's the thing. Like that's the main objective right now. Like
yes.
There can't be any sort of movement and discussion of what comes after until this happens. And we're not even there yet. So like that's why
I'm
so
afraid
that's like
we won't be there for in the best case scenario months and in the worst case scenario years.
Yeah.
I don't know. One sec, let me sit down so I can catch my breath a little.
Yeah, it's depressing. Like it's really hard to see this and discuss it. That's the easy part, to see it and discuss it. The hard part is living it, like they're living it in Gaza.
The way that I have described this to older people in my life is that I am just absolutely desperate for this to stop, and I am willing to see pretty much anything happen to make this stop.
Yeah.
Because it is intolerable on every level. As a conscious being with morality, to see countless tens of thousands of innocent people dying for no reason.
I don't think I don't think we have really ever seen anything like this in our. I'm in my 30s, so older people maybe have, but I can't recall a scenario where we were okay and supported a country completely wiping out a total region. Just abstract annihilation of an entire region. Like we were anti like when I was in high school, we were anti the Afghanistan and Iraq war, especially the Iraq war. Afghanistan too, though, but especially Iraq, because it had, at least Afghanistan, the idea was we'll fight Al Qaeda and find Osama bin Laden there. Iraq was just not even that, even though they lied to us and said that had something to do with it. But even in both those scenarios, even with all those casualties, there wasn't just complete annihilation of a region. There wasn't just like, and we did some bad things, without a doubt. We did some bad.
You would get the videos of massacres coming out, but it wasn't this.
Right. I'm not saying this to absolve the U.S. I'm saying this to say, look at how bad we did, and somehow this country is upping the ante times 1,000. Like, this is unlike anything I have ever seen.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so for me, my whole arc on this is I grew up like in the Bible Belt, in a part of the country where I believe it is the most like Protestant churches per capita of anywhere in the world. It's something like 130 churches in a place with like 30,000 people or less. And I remember like just all of when I was growing up, my parents basically just writing off like violence that would happen in the Middle East, and just writing off stuff that would happen in the Holy Land as being like necessary, or, oh, it says in the Bible that this is going to happen, so it has to happen, and all of this other stuff. And I remember just being completely unsatisfied with that as like a 10 or a 12-year-old. And then as I got older, my first exposure to Palestine was I was going to a summer camp for like, kids with like ADHD or whatever. And I met an anti-Zionist Jew who was my age, about 15 at the time. And he gave me like a very brief, like SparkNotes summary of what the situation was. And at first I thought he was just saying it to piss off people in a synagogue or to be edgy. But then as I got older, I started to look into it, and I started to watch your guys' coverage on Majority Report. And that was kind of a lot of where I got my education of like, I guess what the last 5 or 6 years of this have been. And like now being somebody who's educated about this, to watch this all happen, it just feels like you're being gaslit by the entirety of like government and media. And it's awful. It feels like it's just the worst shit you've ever seen every single day, and it's on rails, and there's nothing you can do.
Right. And I'm sure people will try to, because we were comparing, before, and I'm sure there are people in the chat who are trying to come up with analogies and analogous situations.
Who cares?
But honestly, there isn't even. Like, there is nowhere on this planet that is imprisoned in the way Gaza is.
Yeah. Like,
you can bring up other genocides, you can bring up other wars. There was I don't know. Maybe someone will bring up an exact analogy, but everything I've seen so far is not analogous, because these are people who literally have nowhere to go. You have 2 countries bordering them who won't let them out, and that's it. They're stuck there.
Can I talk to you about like a conversation I had with somebody at my church yesterday about this?
Yeah, sure.
So, like we do like a food kitchen thing or whatever on Tuesdays. That's why we were all there. But I remember my friend Jean, she's pushing 80, and she's like nominally quite leftist, and basically is a boomer growing up in like, coming of age in the 60s and 70s. She kind of realized that there wasn't a lot she was going to be able to do in public service, and so she just decided to become like a low income exclusively landlord. And so she has like tenants that she's had for like 20 or 30 years that she keeps at like $350 rent in like California for like, good accommodations and stuff. She's a decent person, and she has like been with me every step of the way on like Israel Palestine, and is just absolutely disgusted. And she's like, I don't know how I can support the president, like knowing that he's doing this. That's the background on her. She asked me like what I thought of the protests, and I said that that the students who were protesting were right, and that anybody who was arguing with them was wrong. And then a second person butted in, oh, well, why are the students supporting Hamas? And then I said, well, why did the anti-war protesters in the 60s support the Viet Cong? And then I basically told her that it's because those are the only groups that are capable of protecting those civilian populations, and that when there's a genocide going on, like, if my house is on fire, I'm calling the fire department. I don't care like if the people who are in the fire department are like assholes, or if they like are pyromaniacs or whatever the hell. My house is on fire. I'll take help from literally anyone I can get.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we could like we could discuss like what Hamas did and being wrong, which that's my position. And we could say Hamas must be dismantled because of this. Okay, fine. But what is your solution then for the Palestinian people? And there is none. So what's going to happen? A new Hamas 2.0 will be formed.
Yes.
And this will continue to happen. Because
until there is an opportunity for them to live without constant violence from a settler colonial state, they will continue to resist it. And,
also, I don't know of how many protesters are actually at a pro-Hamas position. It's got to be the absolute minority, right? And also, I mean, when we talk about Palestinian resistance, the first thing that comes to my mind isn't Hamas on October 7th. It's the hundreds and thousands of images of Israeli kids and teenagers throwing rocks and using slingshots against literal IDF tanks as they come into their homes and stuff like that. Like, that's the resistance that the Palestinian people have had for the past decades. Like, that's the resistance.
I saw this video of like a crossover car that was full of tires that they were using to shield themselves from gunfire while throwing rocks at fully armed soldiers. It's amazing the bravery these people have.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if there's a direction you want to take it, then I'm down to hear it. But also, if you'd like me to finish,
why don't you? Only because there's so many people who are trying to call in, and I went long with that first caller.
I'm gonna plan to get off in the next 2 minutes because I feel like I've had a full arc of a call. This is certainly longer than I get on MR, but yeah.
I think everyone who calls in here finds that they get longer than they get on MR.
Well, yeah, because you don't have 5,000 viewers right now. But anywho, honestly,
I hate to think about what will happen if I ever do have 5,000 viewers.
It's gonna suck.
Because I honestly also don't see myself being the type of person who's like, gotta jump if I get a call that like tickles my fancy, like the previous call when I could get to like debate with somebody. We might have a 16-hour daily show. Honestly, I mean,
you do a full news segment, like 3 calls a week, but yeah. So like I'm telling her like basically just the atrocities being committed, and then she says that they started, and then I was like, what? They started? Does history start on October 7th of last year?
A lot of people think it does. Honestly, a lot of people think it does.
And I started walking her through that, and she was like, it starts in 1949, and then I immediately countered with the British mandate in Palestine in 1915 and what happened there, and the fact that like the creation of Israel like necessarily involved like basically paramilitary death squads who dispossessed people of their land and killed like wholesale thousands of civilians. And then she said, but it happened. It happened. And I was like, but they had a right to resist that. They had a right to resist that in 1948. They had a right to resist that in 1968. And they have a right to resist that now. And I told her, like, what would you do? Like, what, like, seriously, you think they're just supposed to forget about it? And she said, I'm a history major. And I was like, I don't think you being a history major is a counter to this. You were a history major in the 80s. You guys destroyed your entire society because you were scared of people who needed welfare getting it. I don't take your opinion as serious. You're clearly not willing to put in the legwork here.
Yeah.
But it's just, but like, I guess looping back to the start of it, it's just difficult because I'm like, you know, I like these people are totally normal and they're my friends in like other times and other areas, but it's like how do you reason or how do you work around somebody who thinks that a group of people can like bring genocide upon themselves, you know?
Right. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about
There's
it.
no both sides of it.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, you have a people who were removed from their homeland, and listen, I'm not saying that's never happened in history, but in this scenario, you have a people who are removed from their homeland and were never given an opportunity to even settle somewhere new of their own.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing too. Like,
they've been systematically pressed into a corner every day for 70 years. They've not
it's
been
never ended. It's never ended. Their homes are continuously their land gets continuously settled on and taken over.
The ones who don't die and live to see adulthood live their entire lives under siege. How are you supposed to, like, you know, they say, well, Arabs don't build anything. I've heard that point.
Oh my God, that's just straight up racism. That's not even.
No, it's horrible racism, but it's like let's just even ignoring the racism for a moment, how do you expect these people in Gaza to build a functioning society when you don't let them?
Well, I mean, how like you can't even leave Gaza unless you get permission from from Israel. Like, they don't even have an airport. If you want to visit Gaza before all this happened, you needed to. You couldn't go straight to Gaza.
Yeah. Okay. One last thing I'll leave you with because I know
there's quick. Oh, I'm gonna pull a majority report. Make it quick.
I saw this. I saw this. This Zionist economics professor at Columbia, I believe, who had his staff ID card revoked.
Oh, that was we were talking about him during the show with Talia, Shai David or something.
Shai David, but yeah, somebody commented to that with, "Wow, look who doesn't like gates that only let a certain number of people through now."
Right. Yeah. It's.
Sorry. Hey, take care. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, Matt. Get a couple of.
Thanks for calling in, Ren. It was a pleasure. Talk to you next time. Bye. All right, let's take this next call. And I lost him. Oh my God, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. A lot of people trying to call in. Hello?
Hey.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, that was weird. I think 2 people got on, and then I lost someone. That's weird. Is this Kowalski?
It is, and I have a video streaming to you.
Oh, you do? You're in the thing. Oh my God, hold on. Oh yeah, we got late night farm tractor feed from Kowalski, and what are you doing right now?
I am planting God's gift to man.
Corn. Very cool. Is this the beginning of the corn planting season?
Pretty much. I started yesterday after this little gizmo here runs all of the programs that make my planter work, and my brother decided to erase all of the programs, and it took me a while to get it all redone. But yeah, it's going well.
Why did he erase all the programs? Was he trying to make room for some mobile games?
That monitor was in the combine running different programs, and he had to clear everything. So this monitor, I've used it for 11 years, and I've never had to adjust the settings on it in 10. So as you can imagine, just like imagine you get home and you just forget how to ride a bike. You got to go ride the bike.
Listen, I actually hear you completely. I'm one of those people who sets something up the first time and then tries to never mess with it again. Even if I could better understand it and get it even more perfect to my use case or whatever. No, once I set it up and get it at least functioning, that's it. I don't want to fuck around with it anymore. So I get it.
Yep, totally. But hey, I'll make this quick because I actually got to call into MR today, and I get to do that more than most because I have so much dirt on Sam. He's required to take my calls. But I did want to mention one thing that your little debate thing made me think about, and that is, Matt, I forgive you.
For what?
Well, I have heard that you are Prussian.
I am.
And I am Polish, and my ancestors come from the part of Poland that was occupied by the Prussians.
Right.
So I forgive you.
I appreciate that. I mean, I believe, I'm pretty sure that my family came from the part of Prussia that is Germany.
Yeah, I'm sure. But all I want to say is, you and I have gotten to grow up in a country, a multi-ethnic, multiracial empire, where our material conditions are now roughly equal and we have political parity.
Right.
I almost feel like that kind of animosity we should have had towards one another might have been alleviated by making our circumstances a bit more equitable.
Right. Yeah. I like that. Yes. Right.
I am for a single state solution.
I agree.
That's what I'm getting at.
I agree.
Democracy is worth fighting for.
I agree. I mean, it is. Yeah, we could use Prussia as the example.
But all right,
I will say it's always been weird for me to explain to people what a Prussian is, because a lot of people don't know. Like, I hate to say it, but Prussia really didn't leave any lasting impact on the world post the World War.
Oh yeah, no, Prussia definitely, not known for drastically changing global events whatsoever. Yeah. Nope. Can't think of a goddamn thing.
Right. Yeah. We'll go with that. Right. We'll go with that. Thanks for the call, Kowalski.
Just hold on one sec. Just because of where I live was settled by a lot of Germans. I literally live 1 mile off from a county road that's called Bismarck Street. The Prussians have had no lasting impact. Bismarck Street. Right. People are weird, but all right.
Pennsylvania does have a King of Prussia. That's an area in Pennsylvania.
I bet it was a Frederick or a Wilhelm.
I never actually knew why it was called King of Prussia. Let me look this up, actually. It took its name from a local tavern in the 18th century named King of Prussia Inn, which was named after King Frederick the Great of Prussia. Oh, okay. I mean, that is weird, though. To not just call yourself Prussia, Pennsylvania, to go with King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. That is weird.
That is a bit different, but You know what? I'm about to go under some power lines, so I really probably should let you go. But
All right, Kowalski, take care.
just know your corn is going in the earth. All is well.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Looking forward to eating that corn, Kowalski. I just picked up a call and I lost him again. What time is it? I'll take, here we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's going on, man?
Hey, how are you doing? It's Hansi, everybody. How you doing, Hansi?
Yeah, people were yelling for me to get on the phone when that 1 hour call went on.
Right, we needed some wrestling talk to help bring everybody down to an entertaining, fun conversation, right? Right?
I guess, man. Listen, man. With the call, I don't want to take your time. I really can't talk for an hour and all that, but I'll just say, hey, listen. I'm not saying that that guy that you had on. I'm not saying that I agree with all the things he's saying. I do think it is a fair. I do think it's a fair point. And this is not discrediting, because you know how I fucking feel. With the call, my whole worry is that when you have two extreme, I'm not talking about Palestinians. I'm not talking about the people that are dying and people who are protesting. I'm talking about bad faith actors who do have power that will look at what the pro-Israel side is doing, because they will just keep gaslighting you, and we keep pointing out, oh my God, they're hypocrites. They won't acknowledge this, and they're doing that on purpose in hopes that people like myself 10 years ago would feel so disillusioned that I would end up going to, because I was treated by shit, by the Howard Stern contingent over Palestine, Israel, and calling me anti-Semitic, calling me terrorist, calling me all kinds of names. It was supposed to lure me into fundamentalist beliefs by pushing me so much. And I feel like so many people feel so disillusioned by always being called terrorist sympathizers and all that kind of shit, and being pushed to being radical, that bad faith actors, people who have bad intentions, to use it for their cause, to lure people like myself who are disillusioned and almost radicalized, to then join in on the complete anti-Semitic side. That doesn't mean that I'm making excuses for what Israel's doing and all that kind of shit. I'm not gonna fearmonger about the protesters. I'm glad they're fucking out there. But I do think that is a point that I do worry about, where the pro-Israel side, who probably jerks off to fucking dead Palestinians, are the ones pushing people more to be radicalized, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to paint anybody who are protesting as that, but I do think that we should be more militant in that regard of thinking, because there's a lot of bad faith actors that dominate the space, who tend to be pro-Palestinian, and they are doing it for their nefarious. But the thing is, a bunch of people who feel powerless are like, who else am I supposed to go to? Because there's nobody in the mainstream media that's on the Palestinian side. They've been fucking shitting on brown people since the fucking, since the 80s. And then with 9/11, it's you know what I mean? So that's what pushed me to go more to the alt media in the 2010s, because I was sick of mainstream media's pretentiousness and how they handled the Iraq war, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I think I see what you're saying.
Which means you don't know what I'm saying, but
I'm trying to understand.
I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, okay, the guy brought up Norman Finkelstein. I think he's I understand he's very educated on the issue, but he's also around the very far right wing as well. Of he's
Listen,
on the
I wouldn't go to him for the word on anything but this issue. Let's put it that way. But on this issue, he is very good. He knows the history.
No, he is no. Yeah.
And I think obviously I think because he has without a doubt, because he is the go-to on this, he gets a lot of flack from people who don't agree with him and the Palestinian position. And so I do think over the years he probably has gotten a little combative and sort of gets a little bit too into like the debate bro type scene or whatever. He spends a lot of time doing these sort of sometimes meaningless debates, and gets caught up in like the Destiny debate where obviously he knows a lot more than Destiny, but he wasted a lot of time just like knocking Destiny, which like he's smart. He doesn't need to do that. He's smarter than Destiny on this.
See, the thing that I feel bad about Norm, he's somebody that challenged Alan.
Although it was very funny, without a doubt.
He's somebody that challenged Alan Dershowitz like a long time ago, and because he embarrassed him, because people did a whole thread about what he's been through, because he got fucking blacklisted, and he had like a lot of harassment from like cops and all that kind of shit. So that's like something that like so I always empathize with what the system does. Like I empathize with like the people that got fucked over by the system. So I always kind of like I supported his like I'm like, yeah man, finally you're getting your vindication for all the shit that you had to go through. And whenever like some of the members of the Post left trying to co-sign you, it's like you also become a pro-Putin fucking talking head. And I understand but again, Matt, I don't view this entire thing as country versus country. I think, fundamentalists want a fucking war. And I feel like because like the Israel side has been gaslighting and doing horrible shit, not even just doing horrible shit, also profiting off of online engagement with it too. That's what's even more fucking sick about the whole fucking thing. Is that like they're already committing a fucking genocide. They've been doing it, and now in this era, they can just do it for more engagement farming, which is even 100 times more fucking sick about that. You know what I mean? I know I don't want to be a conspiracy guy on left spaces because I know left spaces don't like conspiracy people too much. But that guy who just set himself on fire outside of Trump's fucking trial and shit, like I don't agree with what he fucking did, but if that manifesto is a little bit of what he was saying for real, then I agree with what his sentiment was about how Biden and fucking Trump, the centrist Democrats and the fucking Republicans.
No, dude, that guy was honestly he was just a mentally disturbed guy. He had no real politics.
I'm not saying
on
he.
This. Yeah.
I'm not, dude, but the whole thing, Matt. See, this is why. See, again, you let a guy for an hour come here and talk about Israel thing, right? But you can't fathom that there is anything conspiratorial. Like, that guy is definitely an Arkham Asylum weirdo that is like activated to do this shit, to discredit anybody who has conspiratorial thought. If you seriously don't think that this, because again, you're looking at, okay, what Biden is doing, you really think that these guys aren't gonna fucking do a worldwide fucking coup on any level? Like, do you not like do I have to wait until Palestine gets turned into fucking nothing but dust before they build a fucking golden temple and fucking Trump gets crowned there before we start taking it seriously? Or are we gonna just focus on Donald Trump just fucking sleeping in fucking court and dumbing down more fucking billionaires? I'm just saying, if you want to be militant about the whole fucking thing, then we shouldn't dumb down billionaires. That's the problem with all this political fucking discourse, is that we're dumbing down billionaires non-fucking stop. Oh my God, Trump couldn't be this smart. He farted in court. We're playing right. Fucking dumb.
No, I don't think they're dumb, but I don't think they really need to do any of that. Like I don't think they don't like, they have the power. They don't need to like stage something like that. Like, it's just,
you seriously don't. I get staging and orchestrating is a right-wing thing now for some reason and all that kind of shit. But why the left is never gonna fucking win, because you guys are afraid to get conspiratorial own the fucking right wing. I don't mind it. I'll take the fucking bullet. You can
No,
put a
listen. I think there are obviously JFK. That's that's a conspiracy theory that I think is certainly well within its areas of reality and what could have happened. I'm not anti-conspiracies or conspiracy theory. I just don't see one here. Like, this guy seems to just have been a mentally ill individual. He had no real politics. If you look at his manifesto, it doesn't even really make any sense. Like, it's just sort of all over the place.
What I'm saying is, I'm not saying this guy is some fucking hero. What I'm saying is they have the little Arkham asylum. I know, because we can't admit that. We can only say that billionaires are inept. We can't fathom that billionaires are putting money on the fucking street and having their little Arkham asylum weirdos fucking go around doing fucking horrible shit to then advocate for more civil liberties to be fucking crushed. If you just think dumb, what you're saying, Cole, we need so we gotta wait until they fucking do their little biblical prophecy and make Israel the holy fucking land before it fucking ends up happening, or we're just gonna I don't know. It just seems like all this debate shit, all this fucking nuances and all that, nothing's gonna fucking happen. And this is what I called into your show. Said a couple of months ago that I don't want to be on this fucking planet. I know what the future is going to hold, and it's not going to be pretty in the future, bro. It's not going to be pretty in the future. And I'm supposed to want to be here. I'm not going to bow down to fascism. I'm not going to bow down to fucking Nazis. I don't care. All these billionaires are fucking fuckheads who are the most evil fucking people on the planet. They really are, and we dumb them down for what? For entertainment? Like again, my anger's not you. You have more nuance than a lot of other fucking people. But like, I have to pretend that Cenk and Anna are pro-Palestinian people. This guy is strolling around with RFK Jr., guy that was on Epstein's island, a guy that's pro fucking Israel.
Wait, hold on. Are you, the TYT people are pro RFK? Is what?
Well, Cenk the last few weeks was like, I think I'm going to vote for RFK Jr.
What? No way. He didn't say that. Shut up. Are you serious?
Yes, and then he recently was in he was recently taking a picture with him while they're doing some hike.
Are you serious? Wait, well, the picture, you could say that maybe he was interviewing him or something. So I'm not going to judge that yet.
It wasn't an interview. It was him, like, leisurely walking with him.
Wait, so Cenk said he was thinking about voting for RFK Jr.?
Yeah, a guy that was on Epstein's island. For some reason,
wait, H-Dub in the chat says, and he went after Emma and Matt Leck. Wait, what? He went after Emma and Matt Leck? Cenk?
I don't recall him going after maybe in one of his debates. He just did a fucking debate with fucking Destiny and no, not Destiny. Like Barry Weiss organized a fucking debate he did. I don't keep up with all the debates, man. The debates to me are so fucking pointless.
Yeah, I listen, I like doing them, but I also don't do them a lot. I don't overdo them. Like, it's a rare event for me. But Cenk said he was. Hold on, I'm looking at his. I gotta see this picture of him with RFK. When was this?
This is like a couple of days ago.
He posted it where, on Twitter?
RFK posted it. Or called the post left watch. You want me to send you the link?
Post left watch. Let's see.
Look at their media section, and they'll have something about Cenk there.
Oh wait, I see it. Let me pull this up on the feed here. And what did he say about Emma and Matt Leck? Someone tell me.
I don't know what he said about Emma.
Robert Kennedy Jr. posts, "Thanks, Cenk, Uyghur, and Mohammed Sharif for joining me on my morning hike. Great conversation." Now listen, who's Mohammed Sharaf? I don't know who that is.
I have no idea who he is, but he's probably a jerk. If he's hanging out with these idiots, he's probably
No,
a jerk.
listen. I will say I don't necessarily have a problem with this photo.
Get the fuck out of here.
If there was an interview, and this was just like the photo they did. I've seen this background before. RFK Jr. went on this same hike with another journalist who wrote a profile on him. That was not a pro RFK Jr. profile. He might force all these people to come take this hike with him. But I am 100% judging Cenk if he said he's voting for him.
He's thinking about it. And also, here's another tactic that they do that what they call Cenk thinks is like so fucking like clever. He's like, tune into my show. Listen, we got an exciting hour, exciting 2 hours of TYT, and you're gonna be surprised to guess I agree with Matt Gaetz on something. You're gonna be surprised to know. Hey, I actually agree with Tucker Carlson on something. Like, dude, we're not surprised.
Wait, who agrees with? Wait, I thought. Wait, who said they agree with Matt Gaetz on something?
Like every once in a while they'll do, like, for example, right now, because the whole FISA story is happening, so Jake and Anna go, oh, I agree with Charlie Kirk on this FISA bill. It's like, you can't find another example of somebody that can be anti-FISA bill and anti-FISA and make the fucking point, or you gotta fucking choose Charlie Kirk as a way to fucking pretend that they actually care about it for the same reasons that fucking people on the left should care about it.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea what's going on with TYT. All I know is that I know they've been on the crime beat, which is just my God. But I gotta catch up, I guess. I don't know. I guess I've been really out of the loop about what's going on the streams, with the streamers and stuff.
Did you hear what Anna's latest controversy was?
Oh my God, do I want to hear? What is she doing?
And so randomly, she goes, oh, not a blip on the media's radar about the shooting in Chicago took place. And then I called her out on it. I even screen recorded the responses. She claims she canceled the story because people at the left were calling her racist. And all people did from the left point was like, you're using it as a gaslighting tool. Do you really care about this issue? There are people that were calling her out genuinely. But all it was were right-wingers going, oh, why can't black people act civilized? It was a bunch of those kind of comments. And then she talked about, oh, people on the left assumed it was a black person. It was a Latino person that got shot. You know what I mean? So
I think I saw this, and then she shared like a GoFundMe or something.
She shared a link to this guy named Sean Fitzgerald or something like that, who's like a racist.
Oh, the actual justice warrior, that guy.
Yeah. What the call? She goes, oh, he did a story. She goes pressured by the left, even though she always boasts about how the left can't pressure her not to do stories and all that kind of shit. She'll do what she wants and all that.
Why is she being pressured by anybody? Like, she is that weak of a in terms of what she does for a living, what her job is, that she needs to be, she feels pressured to cancel. Like, that's on her, man. No one's ever pushed me to say anything or do anything or cancel anything. I have done my reporting. I have done my analysis. And where I land is where I land, and I either stand by it or I have a discussion with someone and I update my viewpoint if I feel like they have points. But I do it all in real time, and you see when it happens, and there's no hiding anything, there's no canceling anything, there's no self-censoring. So if she felt like she had to do that, that's on her, man. I don't know what she's blaming other people for that. That's her problem if she did that.
Dude, there were 9-10 responses to her tweet that called her out for the bullshit that she was doing. Everyone else was saying that it was black people that do this. Oh, this is what happened when you don't. Where's Black Lives? All of them were the ones making racist comments. She starts claiming that the left attacked her. She constantly says, "Oh, the left has a problem with me. Come at me. Come at me. Come at me." And then when you come at her, she fucking blocks people. She didn't block me yet. I'm waiting for me to get blocked. Cause I really shouldn't. I should just stick to your show, The Leftist Mafia, Majority Report, and The Serfs maybe. I I don't know why. I just keep an eye on TYT because you can't. They're still talking about being the home of the progressives while doing
I
like
don't know.
very.
I don't hear anyone talk about them anymore. Honestly, like I don't know. I know they still have good hosts and journalists there on like the side shows and the secondary shows. But I haven't heard anyone really. The only time I ever hear about this stuff is when people are talking shit about something they did.
I get. I don't know. Listen. I get it. I mean, I should try to.
I don't even think I don't even think they have any real like they used to, and no doubt about it. And I respect them for having this. This is just the truth. They used to have sway. Like they used to be like as recently as like the 2016 elections, it was like a big deal to have the TYT like nod of approval. Like Bernie Sanders would go on there. It was it was a big deal. And do they have that anymore? Does anyone interact with TYT in the same way anymore? Where they have some real sway in the movement?
It's like WWE when they pretend to, like, in my personal opinion at least, when they pretend to like release certain guys who then blow up outside the company, even though I still believe they're always kind of employed for life by WWE under the table, kind of in a way. It's the same thing that I say with all the people that left TYT and have become worse, like Jimmy Dore, Dave Rubin, Michael Tracy. All these guys are still. I feel like they're under that. I think the only guy that hasn't gone completely apeshit is Jordan Charrington, but I don't know. I don't agree with everything that guy says either. But but he doesn't seem like the one who seems like he's super out of control as much as Jimmy. Like Jimmy Dore is so boring now that this guy is he's just doing all he does.
I've not heard anything about Jimmy Dore in like a year. He has completely fallen off the radar. Like I gotta like listen. Like I don't even mean like I don't even mean like, oh, he's not progressed. No, I mean I haven't heard about him anymore. Like I'm sure his channel is still there, and I'm sure he's still doing numbers, and I'm sure he's making a nice living. I'm not saying that. I got no clue how successful he is in terms of money and how many members he's got paying him or whatever his monetization route is. I'm simply talking about his relevance in the news cycle has completely waned. I remember I'd hear about this guy all the time, his takes, who he had on, what was going on his show. Haven't heard a single thing about Jimmy Dore.
The only way that I know about what he does a little bit is because Post Left Watch still fucking points. Dude, if you look at some of these clips, dude, he's clearly drunk. In my personal opinion, he's clearly drunk in these clips, and all he does, him and that guy Kurt Metzger, all they do is just make anti-trans jokes. They're like the most hackiest fucking thing on the planet, basically. That's basically what he did. I think because Jake and Anna took his shine of becoming more right-wing grifters, that like now Jimmy Dore's like, holy shit, they're outdoing me for once. You know what I mean?
I'm looking at Jimmy Dore's channel for the first time in forever. He's doing fine. Like, if I had these numbers, I'd be quite happy. Looks like most of his videos get somewhere between like 50 and 100,000, maybe 150,000 views. I see some with 500,000 views. He's doing fine. But like, I'm looking at his stuff. Has he said anything about Palestine?
He does to hype up other. From what I see, he hypes up other people. Like he didn't question who was it? He didn't question. He didn't question somebody that was like, I think when
I see one recent video, but he's not on this one. This is somebody else, a guest host. This is a guest host doing these videos. Okay, now I see him on these clips. I'm looking for a Palestine video with him on. NPR's new CEO is the ultimate woke mental case. Trans woman crushes females at track event. Dr. Phil rips COVID experts. I mean, if you're doing this COVID shit, April 2024. I mean, what is your deal, man? Let's see. The end of the Constitution just happened. We got a Ukraine video. A pro Jackson Hinkle video. Oh wait, I see. Okay, I see a 8 days ago a Door hosted. I think the clip doesn't show. Hold on, let me make sure he's on this one. Okay, he is. Okay. I mean, one video. That's. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was just off. He had an off week, and he's been covering Palestine nonstop.
No, I don't think he does too often. But with the call, listen, Matt. With the call, listen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for, kind of like. No, I wasn't losing my cool at you. I was just losing my cool for the whole entire fucking world.
No, don't worry about it, man. I get it. Yeah, I didn't take it personally.
And listen,
and even if you were yelling at me, I would just hang up on your ass. So.
I get it. It just I just maybe because I'm looking at the grand. My mistake is looking at the grand view. You know what I mean? And by the way, before I go, Tony Khan just got his ass kicked on television. By the way,
who?
Tony Khan just got his ass kicked on television.
Cody what?
Tony Khan just got his ass kicked on
Tony
television.
Khan?
Yeah.
What happened?
Jack Perry and the Bucks beat the shit out of him.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Ooh, I gotta watch this.
Well, then his father came out to show concern.
Are you serious? Wow, they're going far with this.
So for the NFL draft tomorrow, he better pull a Vince McMahon and wear a neck. Like,
what was that?
Wore, you know how a man wore a neck court?
Right.
He should wear a neck brace tomorrow at the NFL draft because of the Jaguar shit.
That'd be pretty funny.
Anyways, listen, Matt, with the call, thanks for having me on. I know you're in a hurry.
This is good, though. This is good. I like this. This is good. This has got me interested again. I gotta say, AEW was since losing Punk, I felt like they were sort of waning. They were really on shaky ground. Great matches, obviously. I hear that Bryan Danielson, Will Ospreay match was off the charts, like best match ever. But in terms of storylines, they were losing it. But this sounds good. Let's see what happens with this.
That's for real. And listen, Matt, if you do a wrestling podcast or like do more, I'll definitely try to. I just feel like I than you, so I'll I love talking about this stuff, whatever. But if you don't mind, let me set this call with me talking about the Palestine-Israel shit.
You are welcome. You're welcome to. Anyone is welcome to clip my shows however they'd like. They could put it on their channel, their TikTok, their Instagram, whatever they'd like to do with it.
All right, man. Peace out, my friend. Peace out.
All right. One last call, really quick. You got to make it quick. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Osama. I've been trying for 2 hours.
Osama, I know. I've seen your calls. You were the person, I think, who, when I clicked on Kowalski's phone, it picked up the double call and then it dropped yours. So I'm glad I got your call.
Me too.
I do have to say it sucks that you're the last call of the night because I do have to say make it quick. But
okay, I'll do a speed run.
Yeah, but I'll definitely next time you call in, I'll take yours first, though. I promise.
Sure. So yeah, first thing, I am now a master's in physics, all but a master's in physics.
Oh, congratulations. Love to hear it.
Yeah, the graduation's on May 3rd, I think, or 4th, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
now
close.
speed running. Yes, now we can take catch your breath. So
Right.
first you said you were talking with Rennie, I think, about Israel being the only one doing it and no one talking against it and the US allowing it. I just wanted to point out, because no one talks about it, in Sri Lanka, they did do what Israel is basically doing, whereas enclaving a minority in a popular place and then saying this is the safe zone, that is the safe zone, and then killing them there. They were fighting the Tamil Tigers, but there are like other minority groups as well. And the
Where is
Tamil
this again?
Tigers were there. Sri Lanka.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and they were the Tamils were like kind of their Hamas, and then other minority groups, they were just ping ponging them like this is the safe zone, that is the safe zone, and since that's an island, they literally had nowhere to go. And for some reason, everyone like was with Sri Lanka. Maybe it's because they're like an important port area, like Pakistan, India, China, Russia, US, any opponent, like they were all just together in this weird alliance. Iran, Saudi Arabia, whatever. No one was with the minorities. No one talked about them. Just wanted to say that. Arun Annao talks a lot about that, but now moving on to the main thing that I wanted to talk about was I wanted to like deconstruct what the first caller was talking about, because what they were talking about sort of like was the liberal Zionist type of view, where they're like always in like contention with each other in the sense that their like moral consciousness is with like, of course, Palestinian people, but there's still that connection to the sort of Israeli framing where they can't escape from it in a sense. But they also the nature of protests themselves, because protests are, of course, they're organic and the people make it, and there are like millions of people, and they're not organizing themselves in except like if they're like a very militant coordinated group like the Black Panthers. That's very rare though. So you'll always have like different people with like they'll have like some very militant views, some not that militant views, and they'll express things in a way that's not perfect because they're not giving a talk in some like academic place. They're just chanting stuff and to like showing support. So some chants are always need to be catchy, not perfect themselves. They don't express the actual views of the people talking. So like defund the police is it's catchy. It's not because it just tells you everything there is to know. And everything, what was it? Resistance is justified or whatever. That's just an old chant that every protester has used since I think English has been a thing. I think even like maybe if we go back, I don't know, I'm not sure because I haven't read that old history, but if we go back to like the 1800s or whatever, whenever workers were a thing and they started protesting, they'd be saying this stuff in English. So I don't think they were talking about Hamas. I don't know why that person thought they were. The second thing is that since Palestine isn't purely like a left-wing issue, left-wing people just support all human rights no matter where they are. And then the people of that area also do that, of course, because a lot of people, I'm sure, in the like Arab diaspora are going to be like hypocrites about it too. Like they'll support Palestinian human rights, but not support, I don't know, some other human rights, like some of their own minorities that they oppress. Like a lot of Saudi people might not support the Bedouin tribes that their government is oppressing, or like Irani people might not support the Kurdish people or the Baloch people that they oppress, but they'll still support the Palestinians. So of course, they're not humanists. So of course, they don't view, they might view the Israelis as lesser than and still be very anti-Semitic as well. So that aspect also comes up. And that's going to happen. But the main thing, though, about the protest, which you could have pointed out, is it becomes troublesome when the leadership itself starts to become the thing that's touting that thing. Like the leaders of the protest and the major chants happening. Like when everyone is chanting, what are they chanting is more important than small chants happening here or there. Because small chants can come up anyway. That's just what happens. If at any protest where the majority itself, even if they don't have power, becomes more anti-Semitic than not, then Of course, that protest should be condemned, and that's not useful to the movement. The other stuff just happens. The same with like writing always happens, and they always latch on to them. The other thing is, if you're an opponent, even if you're like not being insincere or like duplicitous, which I think the media and everyone are to the Palestinians, you will latch on to anything that you can find. Like even, but also like, it's also useless if you're like actually trying to do an actual critique of it, because I'm sure there are like right-wing positions that are like loony and kooky that we don't really need to focus on, because we can just look at the leaders and what the actual power structure and what they're saying is, and resolve it through that. So I hope the person is listening and they can slow down, and because I'm trying to speed talk this, but that's the thing with that. Regarding Hamas and what people think are like the people who think that they're like the legitimate forms of resistance or whatever the hell. The thing with that is that if you're backed into a corner and you don't have any other options, of course, we know that when you're oppressed or whatever, that doesn't make you sympathetic to other people's oppressions or whatever. It doesn't give rise to humanism, because that's what happened with Israelis who were like, first the Jewish people who were like prosecuted. They didn't become like bastions of humanism. They became sort of reactionary themselves. So a lot of Palestinians might have and have become reactionary due to the oppression that they face.
Right.
The thing that brings
Yeah.
about progressivism and humanism is more like Kowalski said, living together, stability, interactions, like the human interactions and all that stuff, like the normal mundane human life stuff. That's what makes people more progressive and more humanist when they interact with different people. When you're isolated and when you're oppressed, or when you're like in your own community, even if you're not oppressed, you become more reactionary. That's what we see with like these white communities and these purely like Muslim communities in the UK, for example. Like there's a big meme of like Muslims in the UK and Hindus in the UK being very reactionary. That's because they're in their own enclaves, and they're like, sometimes they're like even more conservative than anyone in the like Muslim majority world. even like Saudi people are sometimes surprised by how reactionary they are. That's because they're in their own bubble in that way.
Right.
So all of that to basically say is that when you like when who I don't know who said that, but when you make peaceful solutions impossible, you make, of course, violent revolution inevitable. And that's not going to be like some fairy tale idealized version of a violent revolution where, of course, civilians shouldn't be attacked, and then the people just attack the people in power and then somehow spare the civilians and nothing bad ever happens. And that's not how violent revolutions work. And revolution isn't a good word or a bad word. People think revolution is just a good word. That's why I say, why are you calling it a revolution? But it's just a neutral term for upending the status quo. It can be good or bad. Revolutions can be carried out by Nazis, or they can be carried out by leftists, or they can be carried out by anyone. So in that sense, that's just what's going to happen. And Hamas is the only avenue for people in Gaza, like you said, like everyone says. So there are gonna, and it's not just Hamas. That's another point. Hamas's leadership is consisted of many different people with their own viewpoints, and they keep saying Hamas, but there's different groups with different views altogether. So even while the attack was happening, they coordinated to do it. It wasn't just Hamas, but these groups have different aims and levels of discipline. So it might be that some less trained people were like giving more into their stuff, and they did rape people and stuff like that happen. But it might also be there were more disciplined people who didn't just do that and followed the script that they had for whatever they wanted. So that's something, another thing that's lost. And the final thing, I guess, in this speed run is the solutions aspect. I'm more militant than you in the sense that, like we talk about negotiations, but when people have gone so far as to just support genocide, I think at some point the choice should be taken away from them, not in terms of them having human rights, but more in terms of them getting to decide what happens in the end. So in this, like with Serbia, that happened. I'm of the view that something like Serbia needs to happen, where a solution needs to be forced on Israel, not decided by Israel, where either a one state or a two state. I don't think Israel will agree to it. I think it needs to be forced upon them, whether it's through sanctions, like you said, or whether it's through even military means. But like, if you're going to fight back, then we're just going to destroy your idea. That's just how it is. If settlers are going to fight back, we're going to send in our troops, like whether it's like troops from the US, whether it's troops from the Middle East, whether it's like some UN peacekeeping force, just like NATO did with Serbia. I think that was, no one talks bad about what NATO did to Serbia to protect the Bosniaks. And that's what needs to happen. And after that, since it is equally as hard to do whether it's a one state or a two-state solution, then we need to think about like realistically, like what's the best option. And to living together in a single state is the best option. And we could make like either like a confederation or like a republic or something where it's like something like the UK where they have like four nations or whatever, or it could be something like the US where they have 4 states, for example. And you can decide those specifics when you get there, where you keep like equal balances of powers in different regions that you subdivide into that place. But beyond that, like realistically right now, as a solution that should happen, you can stop the violence that's like really happening right now, but still have the status quo. And that's unacceptable, because the Palestinians are still suffering and dying. They were just dying slowly. It was like, I think the difference would be like setting someone on fire versus boiling them slowly. So that was just the difference that was happening in that time. Like, even if the violence that just happened right now, that's very quick and that's bad and that's like more dramatic, but it was the same sorts of things were just happening over periods of decades and slowly instead of just rapidly all at once. So if you just let it be, then the Palestinians are going to end up not having anything and just dying off. And that's sort of what Israel wants. But now that they've gone a bit insane, sort of, so they don't think they can have any consequences, so they're just doing whatever, and even trying to incite wars with their neighbors, which is like become sort of like a rogue state. So that's why the world is noticing it more. They wouldn't if that wasn't happening. So in that sense, yes, Hamas did succeed, because people were forgetting about Palestine because it was so slow. Like, you don't notice something that's happening slowly. Like, if someone was moving very, very slowly, you wouldn't notice that the thing is changing. But if it happens really rapidly, then you have to notice. And that's the difference there. And I don't think Israel itself can be part of the solution that happens, because what they've done, they've sort of forfeited their right to that. And of course, any solution that happens needs to look into the human rights of all Israelis and all Palestinians. But that doesn't mean that the oppressors get to have a say in that thing. Sometimes you just have to not listen to them and just come up with a solution. Sometimes the world needs to force a solution on a group that's belligerent and sort of like rogue in a way, or a rogue state in a way. Whether it's Myanmar, Israel, Russia, North Korea, whatever, it's just how it works. Even the US, but the US has too much power, so people can ignore that, but that's just how it works. And that was the entire speedrun of what I wanted
Osama, this is
a discussion.
This is a great call. I'm exhausted. So I was happy to have someone who was ready to go, not asking me questions, just wanted to share what they wanted to share.
I just honestly wanted to explore before, if I didn't get the call. I'm like,
no,
I
it
need
was
to
great.
say this stuff, and
I gotta say, I just realized you have video on too. I feel bad. You want me to pull you up on the video feed?
Sure, they can see my Vicky hair.
Your hair is looking. I mean, honestly, I'm a big fan of the big hair. As you know, my hair's kind of flat today because I was tired. I didn't do anything. But big fan of big hair. I straightened out
my hair for a bit. Like when I had smaller hair, I had some money, and then now I don't have the money, and now the lower part that's really curly is growing on. So it's become whatever the hell this anime hair is.
I mean, it looks like anime. Yeah, it looks like you're ready to.
Sorry. When I have more money, I'll straighten out the rest as well.
Looks like you're ready to hit me with like a kami ha.
Or like Tekken here. Like, what's that guy's name? The main character.
Oh God, I don't remember Tekken at
Kazuya
all.
or something.
I'll believe you whatever you say.
I don't know, but I'm not a fighting game fan. That's the speed run of what should have been like, maybe could have been a discussion of 2 hours even in like a few minutes.
No, that was great. Thanks for the call. Really, I mean, I don't have anything to say. I agree with every point you made. There was no questions there, if I recall. No, it was just
no. Yeah. That's the thing is like, I guess I've had to develop this sense of critically analyzing things, and I'm not the best at it, of course. And of course, I'm not.
I thought that was
it's probably not
you were
perfect.
on fire there. You were ba 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 every point perfectly. Oh my God, I can't even make a point now. Every point perfectly vocalized. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, just slow it down if you couldn't catch all of it, and you're like, "What the hell's happening?" Wait, he was talking about this, and now what the hell had happened? That
I thought it was good, so don't worry about it.
yes,
Great call.
And also, before we leave, I guess as a good note thing, have you seen the new WWE tag titles?
I did. I thought they looked good.
Oh, they're I think they're beautiful. I don't know. There's something about them that's
Yeah.
like there's the world titles that are kind of look like the world championship. They're good too. I like the red accents, but the tag titles, they're the best tag titles I've ever
No,
seen.
they don't look like toys anymore. They look like real, respectable championships.
No, they look better than the more I'm thinking about it, they look better than any tag titles I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're good.
And I hope they change the WWE Championship as well for Cody Rhodes, because I really love all the titles except the two: the WWE title that Cody Rhodes has, and the women's title that Bayley has. Those still look ugly. I don't like the big W logo.
Yeah, well, I don't think they'll ever get rid of that, but who knows?
No, they are, because Cody wants something like the winged eagle, so maybe they get like a modernized version of the winged eagle. Because Seth's title, no, it's not Seth anymore, because Damien's title kind of looks like the new version of Big Gold, doesn't it? Kinda.
A little bit, I guess.
So maybe they make like both Bailey's and their version, like a new version of Winged or Big Eagle. That would be cool.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Okay, well, thank
great.
you.
No, seriously, great call. Really, really enjoyed the
Now
call.
I need some water. Okay, have a good
have
one.
a great night.
Oh yeah. Also.
You're not leaving me.
No, the leftist mafia thing. Which
yes, you got to come on. I got to figure out the scheduling
Yes.
and everything, but I will let you know.
Yep.
I promise. Okay.
Also, if you ever do like a wrestling show, have me on for that as well. I would love to just talk
I think
about
I
wrestling.
gotta. I mean,
Yes.
Listen, I gotta say, now that we're just in the second half of the show, just spitballing here, having fun, about to wrap up. Clearly, we're having some. I'm having some issues with growing the show. So maybe it's time I try some different things out. So maybe a wrestling show is something to try out. Not saying it's going to replace this, but I'm going to say it's going to make up for the loss of.
I do agree with. I
don't know what's going on.
Yeah, David Dole and Mike, when they say that you need clips.
Yeah,
because clips help the majority report a lot.
It's very clear I need clips, but I don't think this show particularly is clippable. Like
you need something.
I need to specifically do clips because this show goes long. I can't think of like I don't do like the segments like that we do on the Majority Report, and I helped sort of make that happen on the Majority Report.
You could clip each call, I guess.
But that's still too long. That's still an hour long. That's still an hour-long call. Like I need to make like
hour-long. It's YouTube,
yeah,
but I need
to make like 10-minute clip max clips.
Yeah, like the Majority Report stuff, basically. Yes. Like they have the balance, like. I don't know. Wash works. Wash does streams and then makes big segments and.
Yeah, but that's because he's able to hire someone to go through it and clip. I can't. I don't have the time, nor do I have the patience to go through my own 4 hours of my own show. You need someone else to do that. Either you make clips specifically that are clips, or you got to hire someone to clip you from longer stuff. Because I can't imagine going through my 4-hour-long streams and being like, oh, I made a really great point there. I got but everybody
that's
see
the
it.
Thing. My point is that even 30 or 40-minute stuff could work if you properly segment it. Like that's what Wash did even before he had stuff. Is like, okay, this is my segment, and then he stops for a moment. So he literally stops talking for a moment. So he knows, okay, this is the time where the segment stops. He's like, and then he carries on talking about the next thing.
Yeah, I guess if this show wasn't just like how it is, I could do it. Like we did in the Majority Report.
Exactly.
We know we're gonna talk about a clip. We cue it up. We intro it. We pause it. Discuss it. I don't do that on this show. This show is just a free rolling. Whatever happens, happens. Like obviously, I usually invite a guest or have a topic to talk about in the opening. But that's still like an hour long though. That's still an hour long though. Nothing there's really short. That's not really.
once a week thing where it's just talking about 5 different topics or something instead of just one topic could be a thing, like a
Yeah, I'll
once a week
figure it
thing.
out. Would
Yeah.
probably would be even easier for me, would just for me to sit down and just
Yep.
record a 5 to 10 minute clip
That's
at
true.
like as is, no having to go through it and like figure out what, like obviously I would edit it, but it
Yeah.
wouldn't be
Yeah, of
like, oh, I gotta go through a longer thing and find out what goes. Like I just gotta make something specifically for clips. I'll
Yeah.
do it. I'll do it.
Okay. Well, okay. Have a good one.
Yeah, take care. No, it was great having you on, and
Yeah.
take care.
I'm glad to.
Bye.
Okay. Have a good one. Bye.
All right, folks, let's read the. I'm sorry, callers. I cannot. I'm so sorry. I am done with calls for tonight. I appreciate you all wanting to call in, but it is almost 1 a.m. here. I'm already exhausted. I can't give you guys. I barely gave Usama the time of day. If he called in with, if he can call in with his own little package ready to segment ready to go, I would feel horrible for how little I contributed to his call. All right, let's go to the Twitch and Super Chats. Here we go. Looney Tunes 9000 resubscribed on Twitch for 1 month, a tier 1 subscriber for 4 months. Thank you so much, Looney Tunes. And Looney Tunes 9000 also gifted a 1 month tier 1 sub to the actual Karl Marx. Thank you. Once again, thanks to Dylan Burns and Prague Pro for the raids. 2 Bueller cheered 500 bits. Thank you. Valanova cheered 500 bits. Did you talk about TikTok today? Damn it, I did not actually. Did not even get around to it. Mr. Oakby cheered 1,000 bits. Cheers. Thank you, Mr. Oakby. I really appreciate that. 1,000 bits. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Over on YouTube. Let's go to the Super Chats. Uh-oh. Where are the Super Chats? Come on. Load the Super Chats. Okay, cool. They almost didn't load. I got nervous. Fate Look. Wait, why did they just remove the Super Chats? Come on, just give me the Super Chats. Here we go. Fate Look gifted 10 memberships. Thank you so much, Fate Look. I really appreciate that. 10 memberships gifted. That's awesome. Mike Thompson with a $3 super sticker. What is that? A dinosaur character like waving? Thank you so much. That's awesome. It looks like he's actually doing the Roman Reigns like loading for the Superman punch thing, if you're a wrestling fan. Crew Herks with a super chat. Watching Dynamite. Punk footage exonerated Scapegoat and made him a bigger star. Good decision to release it. I mean, the way they're running with it now, I'll agree with you. I did not think this when they first showed it. I think they needed Jack Perry on that first show, and they would have lost a lot of that criticism. But if they're able to I'll be the first to admit I was wrong if they're able to turn this into a good wrestling angle that actually benefits AEW. Renee, I'm gonna read all your super chats now. Renee dropped a slew of super chats. You mean anti-Semitism against Arabs, Berbers, and Kurds, the class war from the upper classes, Sayorais, Don Philistine, you've ever taken our fear away, Chilean chant, the Caucasity chat, say it with me, in Palestine, surviving is an act of resistance. To the Caucasians in chat, do you know where by any means necessary comes from? Ben Gvir is a self-hating Arab. Revolt, but be polite about it. There's like 5 resistance forces, not just Hamas. Not self-defense, speculation, and gentrification. That's a bunch of super chats from Renee. Thank you so much. Some good ones too from Renee. Mike Thompson, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Really appreciate it. Ryan Lennon fan with a super chat. Caller formulating a roundabout way to say all civilians support Hamas, therefore deserve to And he used the zombie Matt Binder emoji. How many times have we heard this in 7 months? Narrator with 2 super chats in a row. Would you rather them chant "Give me liberty" or "Give me death" instead of "By any means necessary"? The Revolutionary Army were terrorists. What is the weight of your comfort against 30,000? No 2 million lives. To the caller. Yeah, I really don't care about those type of chats. Like resistance by any means necessary. Like they're obviously just like your basic like left-wing chants. I'm sorry. Like I think yours is the perfect example. Give me liberty or give me death. Like it's a chant. It's a saying. No one who says that is ready to throw down and die. Narrator says USS Liberty. Look it up. Pop Perm with a super chat. Anti-Semitism at least slightly affects general perception. Well, yeah, but I really haven't seen anything anti-Semitic. I'm sorry. Revolution by any means necessary is not an anti-Semitic chant. It's just not. It's just not. It's just not. I would even say the pro-Hamas chants. I disagree with them in terms of like any sort of celebrating or condoning October 7th. Again, solely because I think that attacking innocent civilians is wrong. And I've maintained the position that if it was just an attack on a military base or the IDF or something, I can't say I would have a problem with that. I mean, it's a war and it's an occupied territory. I mean, it just goes back to the idea that like being anti-Zionist is anti-Semitic, and it's just not. Narrator says, what's the date, Matt? Which settlers should give back stolen land? Settlers in the last 10 years, after 95, 67, 48? It's a good question. I mean, it's a good question. It's a good question, honestly. While at the same time not displacing people who live in Israel. Sure, it's a very good question. There would need to be some sort of way to make sure that nobody was displaced in some fashion, honestly. I mean, obviously, not everyone will get their way, but I don't know how you do it. It is a good question. Mike Thompson with a super chat. That was a good talk, guys. Talking about, I don't know which talk he was talking about. They were all good calls today. He could have been saying it about any of them. Narrator with a super chat. Matt Binder, a 16-hour, MB, a 16-hour daily show is how you get 5K viewers. I mean, I agree. I would need to do this full time, and I'm not there yet. Narrator with another super chat. Cornell West 2024. If there is no red line for genocide from the electorate, how can you expect more from Biden? Narrator with another super chat. I like Destiny Norm style debates. Destiny fans got an education. Finkelstein Rappaport next. Debate stream should be about giving the argument to the opponent's audience more than the opponent. Oh, absolutely. I just meant like Finkelstein could have gotten more in without the although it was funny. I'm not complaining. You know, without the constant Northwest, this isn't a super chat, but Northwest Nightmare says, you can't displace someone who was given a home illegally. I mean, you could use that same argument then for literally the entirety of the United States of America, no? I mean, you'd be displacing people. I'm sorry. Like, there were Jewish families that lived in Palestine even prior to 1948. Those Jewish families, obviously, the home was their home. Their land was their land, right? The problem was that Israel came along and removed the Palestinians and forced them out of their homes. I mean, I think it's very clear that the West Bank is a simple, like that's the simplest to solve right there. Northwest says, I mean the settlers in the West Bank. Oh yeah, that's an easy one. Like that's no question about it. Those people are settlers who have like that they didn't buy that land. They have no rights to that land. That's not long-standing land that's been in their family for generations or something like that. No, that's easy. The West Bank would be the easiest of the entire situation to solve. We're talking about a one-state solution. Kowalski with 2 super stickers, the pair giving me coffee and a hot dog. Never seen the hot dog one from Kowalski. Thank you, Kowalski. This isn't a super chat either. Oh, what am I doing? JH says Israel didn't come along. The UK and the US did. Well, true, but also Israel did come along. They were the ones who fought the war, right? I mean, they're the ones who came in. Yes, supported by the UK and the US. But I mean, narrator with the $10 super chat. It is not easy to believe the community that raised and created you, a core part of your identity, since saying the Pledge of Allegiance or learning of the people without a home is a force of evil. JH with a super chat here. It's JHLFSC. $10 super chat. When will Americans learn that nobody has power at a protest? The U.S. doesn't give a flying F about the displeasure of her citizens. People only have power at a strike when it threatens the economy. And Carrie Shaw with a $20 super chat. I'm a 60-year-old woman and would watch a wrestling show. Watch WWE in the 80s, but now mostly watch AEW, but would enjoy all of it. Oh, man, I need to do a wrestling show then. Where would I have the time? That's the main problem. Like, I work full-time Monday through Friday. And then I spend time with my kids, helping them do homework, having dinner, playing with them a little before they go to bed. Me and my son have been taking a break from Fortnite to play some FIFA lately. Also, 2 times a week now, we have soccer practice until June. So that brings me home even later, and God, am I exhausted after soccer practice. I coach the team of a team of 8, 9, and 10-year-olds who are on a losing streak right now. And it is tiring as hell, man. An hour and a half soccer practice 2 times a week. I am exhausted at the end of it. It gets me exercise, though, and I enjoy doing it. I'm not complaining. I really do enjoy it, but it's just fucking tiring as hell. And then I do the show Tuesday or Wednesday night. Lately, it's been Wednesday nights, but usually Tuesday or Wednesday night for like 4 hours, as you see. And then Thursday I do Majority Report during my like lunch, and then I go over and go back to work, and then I do Leftist Mafia at night. That's another 3 to 4 hour stream. And you know, I gotta make time for the misses, right? I mean, otherwise there's no relationship there. So I need to spend the weekends at least, you know, not doing a stream. So that leaves me with what? Maybe Monday I could stream, even though I have to figure it out though. I really have to figure it out. I'm not complaining. I have a very fulfilling life. My complaint is that there's not extra hours in the day. I'm not complaining about what I do with my time. I'm complaining that there's not more time to do even more. All right, folks, that's the show. I appreciate all the support, the super chats, the Twitch subscriptions, the YouTube subscriptions, the Twitch bits. No Patreon subscribers though. Oof, Patreon's just... Maybe I move away from the Patreon model. I don't know. I just can't though. I depend on, honestly, everything that comes in, I depend on. I could not lose the YouTube revenue. I could not lose the Patreon revenue. I could not lose even the Twitch revenue, which is significantly smaller than the other two. Each one, I literally, I gotta figure out how to make it all work and get more people to find value in the Patreon subscription. But if you can, patreon.com/MattBinder. The Prince of Inadequate Lighting says, just give up sleep. It's a bad habit and addiction. I agree. I wish I didn't have to sleep. That's like 8 hours, right? When do I sleep for 8 hours? That's like 4 to 5 hours right there. On a good night, maybe I'll get 8 hours max. The nights where I put my kids to bed and I end up falling asleep, those are the nights I'll sometimes get 8 hours, but that's a complete fluke, an accident. Bill Williamson says, are you white or Latin? Ooh, I'll just leave that up for you to have to guess. Actually, I've discussed this many times. People think I'm Latino. People think I'm Arab or Middle Eastern. People think I've got everything. I've got everything. People think I'm everything and anything. But I am Caucasian. I mean, white supremacists wouldn't consider me Caucasian, but I am. At least I consider myself Caucasian. I'm Italian, English, like British English, Prussian, by way of German, by way of Germany, and I am Ashkenazi Jew. So I'm not Latino, though. But I guess if you mix all that together, you end up looking Latino and Middle Eastern. And who knows? Maybe I've never taken a DNA test. Maybe there's a little Latin in me or something. No, I don't think there is. My wife is Peruvian. That doesn't make me Latino, but my kids are Latino. So, but still doesn't make me Latino. Bad Lefty says, I wouldn't mention the British bit, Matt. I mean, honestly, I don't really... I have no connection to really any of it, honestly. I'm American. That's how I consider myself. I was born here. I was raised here. I'm a New Yorker. I mean, it's not like my parents were, my parents were all born here. My grandma on my dad's side was born in England and lived in England. In fact, that's where she met my grandpa during World War II. But yes, I was never one of those people who's like, oh, I'm Italian, waving the Italian flag, or no. I am of the red, white, and blue. I'm proud to be an American. All right, everyone. You can tell I'm losing my mind, and I'm losing it because I'm getting tired. Oh, geez, just got more super chats. JCast says, just went to lunch. What did I miss? You got to rewind. I have no idea what you missed. And narrator with a $10 super chat. Malcolm X meant by any means necessary. He was ready to die. It is discourteous to Ivy League students threatened by the National Guard to say they aren't ready to lay it down for real. Left is best. Kowalski says, we are not sure if Matt can tan. He only goes outside at night. I tan. I get dark. My arms and my face and my neck and my legs get dark. My torso actually burns. If I ever become a pro wrestler, let's put it this way, I will wrestle with a shirt on. It's not because I'm out of shape or anything. It's because you wouldn't question whether I was Latino or not if I wasn't wearing a shirt. Let's put it that way. My body doesn't tan. It's weird. It's weird. I can't explain it. Maybe it's because I'm never shirtless, so my body never got used to the sunlight. Even when I go to the beach, which I rarely do, but even when I do go, I'm one of those people who wears a shirt. The only places I've ever got sunburned, was my chest or my back. Never anywhere else. And it's not because I missed the spot when putting sunscreen on. All right, it's 1 a.m. People are mocking me for still going, even though I said I had to end it. Thank you for all the super chats tonight. Once again, patreon.com/MattBinder. I really thought saying it once or twice and really hamming it up, I thought we'd get a Patreon subscriber or two this episode. No, not a single Patreon subscriber. All right, folks, who should I rate on Twitch? Who am I rating on Twitch? Let's see. Who's on right now, even? God, I got no time to play Fortnite tonight. Let's see. Who's on? Okay. Oh my God. I'm really... Amy EC3. Jason Society. Who's Jason Society? He has that clip of me. Frogan. Riverboat Jack. I'll do Amy. I haven't rated Amy in a while. And she's always great. So let's do Amy EC3. All right, folks. Really enjoyed the show tonight. Really enjoyed spending time with you all. Have a fantastic, wonderful, still no Patreon subscribers this episode, night. I'll see you all next time on Doomed.